And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPMT off. Bring in SPMT off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane to be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? We don't need any more of these.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another NSF live stream from, well, I think we are starting out in Starbase, Texas tonight before migrating over to the Florida Space Coast. But in the meantime, you're taking a live look over at Booster 14-2, which is currently on the move at Highway 4 in Starbase, Texas, making its way towards the launch site, hopefully closing in on launch in around a week's time, hopefully, weather pending for all, and also regulatory approvals, everything involved. Yo, it is a great night to be a spaceflight enthusiast, I have to say. Seeing a bunch of 5x5s in chat, y'all, let the chaos commence. My name is Max Evans. I am a spaceflight photographer here at NSF, and I will be hosting you guys for the stream for both Booster 14's roll and the Starlink 6-83 mission in just under 2 hours' time from now. All right. Of course, obviously, I cannot do this all on my own. I have a cohort of very intelligent human beings with me to help commentate everything that is happening tonight and all things related. So first and foremost, well, I shouldn't say foremost, that's rude, but Alex is with us, finally back on commentary. Alex, how you doing?
Yeah, finally back in the saddle, I guess. But boy, there's what has happened in the last 3 weeks that I was gone.
It couldn't have been much, honestly. I'm not sure you missed anything at all, to be frank. But here we are, nothing at all. Also joining us from the studio is Mr. Ryan Weber. What's going on, Ryan?
Well, not much. Not a lot's happened today, in spaceflight, especially over at Starbase. Not much has happened. The most exciting thing today is this booster rolling. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing else has happened whatsoever. Y'all, in case you can't tell, the caffeine is already flowing, and we may need it for the potentially long night ahead of us. But think happy, positive thoughts. Also joining us from the field here at the Kennedy Space Center is D Wise. What's going on, D?
It is a wonderful evening. There's a rocket on the pad. There's a rocket rolling out to a different launch pad. It is a busy time in space flight here. What an exciting time to be alive. And thank you all for hanging out with us this evening. I'm lots to see today.
Amen to that. Great. Actually, I feel that. Great vibes tonight, D. Great. Yeah, it is a great night for spaceflight hardware reuse. The booster on the docket over at LC39A, we will get into it a bit later, but it is B1067, and tonight will be its record-breaking 20th flight, hopefully if it can get off the ground. And Booster 14, which you can see on your screen right now, is slated to be the first SpaceX Starship Super Heavy booster to be re-flown, having flown just a few months ago on Starship Flight 7. Ryan, what can we expect with the roll tonight and potentially in the coming days, as I guess the timeline to launch now is ticking away?
Yeah, the latest net date looks to be, based off some Coast Guard notices, seems to be the 21st of May for Flight 9. I expect this booster get rolled tonight, probably get put on the launch mount sometime in the morning, would be my guess. And then you need Ship 35. Well, it begs the question on Ship 35 on what's left to do on it. Do they need to put the Starlinks, the SimLink still in? Do they need to do more heat shield work? what do they got to do with it? There is a closure for tomorrow. What is it? Tomorrow, I think it starts at 10 a.m. if I remember correctly here. I double check that. Yeah, it's tomorrow at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which is a roll from Massey's to the factory. My guess is that is 35 to go back into Mega Bay 2 for whatever final stuff it needs, and then roll out, stack it. If they do it early enough, maybe a tanking test, and then launch. All within possibly the next, 9 days? 9 to 10 days, give or take?
I think so. Go ahead.
We're close. I was say we're getting close. And it's a pretty big flight for the program. Not only here, we've got the booster, which is getting a first reuse of a booster, but a lot is riding on Ship 35 to succeed because, well, of course, the last 2 failures. So,
Yeah, that is the rather unfortunate, but also could be very fortunate part of this mission in that there is a lot of risk associated with the fact that SpaceX has opted to go for the first ever potential reflight, or hopefully a good reflight of a super heavy booster for a ship design that has not made it past SECO yet. So, there is certainly a lot riding on this mission, and heaven forbid if things do not go well. The trajectory for the rest of the year for the Starship program hinges, I guess, on how well Flight 9 does. Alex, so the Ship 35 static fired this morning. It appeared to go a lot better than the last attempt of a 6-engine static fire. So, how exactly did that look to us and everyone else involved? And didn't we also see a closure to potentially roll it from all the way to Massey's right to the launch site?
Yeah, I think that was part of the language of the closure, but sometimes it's a bit deceptive, I guess is the word. Like it can deceive you because sometimes it's not properly written out. And by that I mean that, if it says masses to the pad, and that is a weird thing to do, going straight from masses to the pad, that's something fishy that you should probably be cautious about. I believe that closure from tomorrow that says masses to the factory, that's probably more realistic. We've seen. I don't recall any ship being brought from Massey's all the way to the pad. I do remember one at least going from the pad to Massey's, but I may be misremembering. The thing is, yeah, one. Was it Ship 25?
Ship 25 went from Massey's to the launch site to then do.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah. It was
Okay,
Massey's
okay,
to
okay.
the launch site. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, so it only happened once, and the other thing as well is, it seems like maybe with that, the crab stand, the static fire stand, it might not be fully. We'll see if that's the case or not. But there's also other things that we should expect before the flight. I'm really hoping we get to see again the sim links, right? The Starlink simulators being loaded onto the ship. Try again for a deployment, because that's going to be very critical in the next few flights, perhaps, for the Starship program to demonstrate that it can launch Starlink satellites and be deploying all of these many different big V3 Starlink satellites, right? And so I really hope in that they do that they go back to the Mega Bay, they install the sim links, they do some of the final closeouts, and it's still like a bit over a week until that no earlier than date, right? So maybe that's plenty enough for them. We'll see.
Maybe. And so there's actually a lot more to talk about when it comes to Booster 14. Yes, it has flown previously, but there also has been a few unique facts that SpaceX has shared since its successful 33-engine static fire. Was that a month ago already? Around then? Anybody know? I can't quite remember an exact date.
Booster 14 static fire, at least the second one that it did was.
Yeah.
That was April 3rd.
So over a month ago now to this point. Wow.
Yeah.
And just after that, in some of the footage that they released on X following the fire, they said that 29 of its 33 engines are are flight proven. So only 4 engines have had to have been swapped out at least. They didn't specify if all 29 Raptors on the first stage were all from Flight 7 or if they were some were mixed and matched from, like, this is all, for example, say from like Booster 12 and Booster 15. Like, they didn't specify if all those engines were from the Flight 7 campaign, but 29 of its 33 engines are flight proven. So, and obviously the fire went well and they were happy with the data that they received. Ryan, they also have the hot staging ring already attached to the very top. Didn't we see that, like, what was it, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago? Or was it more? Was it longer?
It was longer ago. The hot stage ring has been installed on that thing since April 19th. So we're even coming close to a month on that one. It's been basically, they refurbished 14, rolled it out for its static fire in early April, rolled it back for, I guess, some final stuff over the course of like 2 weeks or so. Put the hot stage ring on it, and it's been sitting inside Mega Bay 1, just kind of sheltered away, waiting for 35 to be ready. Pad A has had no major work on it since that static fire, really. It's been basically, I think, sitting ready for a launch for like the last 6 to 7 weeks, is what it feels like, at least like 6 weeks.
Yeah. And we have not been shy about saying that the biggest question mark in the Flight 9 campaign to this point has been Ship 35. And it's so far 3, well, hopefully only 3 static fire attempts, assuming all went well this morning. But Booster 14, as you can see, is well on the move from the production site along Highway 4 heading out to the launch site. So, gosh, that sense of scale every single time, just having a person next to the booster transport stand is... Guys, a super heavy booster is as tall as a fully stacked Falcon 9 in its fairing configuration. It is not a small vehicle, and of course, it is much, much wider. So, yeah, fingers crossed all goes well, and the time coming up to Flight 9 is rapidly approaching. It has to be said. But just as a reminder, folks, please feel free to tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight, and we will get to all of your questions and comments as best as we can with as much knowledge that we have available. So keep those coming, and we will get to you guys in a bit. Okay, so Alex, how far exactly is the production site to the launch site, and roughly how long should this trip take, assuming nothing goes wrong, heaven forbid, with the SPMTs or something all on the road?
Yeah, now that you mentioned SPMTs, I think I can already hear them here as they approach the view, the camera here. It's about 2 miles, rounding a little bit, right? It usually takes about an hour, maybe hour and a half in a really bad day. Worst case scenario, it's probably like north of 2 hours or something like that. Hopefully that won't be the case today, but it's usually around hour and a half.
So honestly, it doesn't seem like that long, especially when you're watching it. It moves a lot faster, per se, than even the old crawler transporters that carried the Saturn V, the shuttle, and now SLS out to pad 39A or 39B. But also, they are not limited to the Alabama River Rocks tracks here at the KSC. So obviously, they are moving along a public highway quite well. Is that a wheel already picked up on the SPMT? Is that normal?
They have an axle on each side picked up.
Okay.
Maybe they're trying something new. I don't know. But usually they don't. As far as I remember, usually they don't have an axle picked up, but they do on each side. So I don't know.
If they're in the same spot, it must be something that they saw about with either weight transfer or something. I don't know. That's well beyond my I guess depth of understanding. So, but either way, here we go. Right? Is this CP11?
Pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Getting a really close-up look there at the booster transporter stand. My goodness. And so, Ryan, you said we should be expecting lift hopefully sometime in the early morning, probably around or just after sunrise, maybe?
I would expect it early morning. Usually it takes a few hours from once they get it to the launch site to when it's lifted. I mean, at this rate, it should get to the launch site by around 11 o'clock, 11:15. It should be lined up with assuming they line it up with the sticks right away, which is what they usually do. It'll be lined up ready to go around midnight, 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
It could be lifted between 3 and any time like after 3 or 4 in the morning. So I would expect by sunrise that it'll be on the orbital launch mount. So, yeah.
And that's actually a really quick process compared to what it used to be. Honestly, it's really impressive. They have gotten this down to almost a science with getting both boosters on the orbital launch mount and ships lifted for a full stack configuration. Right, I'm going to run through some questions here while we have still a decent amount of time before it gets to the launch site. Did they just stop?
I don't know.
Anybody?
It sounds like they picked up again.
There we go. Yep, SPMT's died down for a little bit there.
Is it backing up?
Backing up. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Tilt down.
Waiting to see the wheels. Yeah, it's going forward. Maybe they backed up a little bit to avoid like a puddle or mud. It'd be a really bad time if they got stuck in the mud the same way they got stuck with the orbital launch mount for Pad B just a few nights ago. This booster's a lot more top heavy than the orbital launch mount was. So,
I wonder if they're having a problem with one of those power packs.
I don't know.
You need to be looking at it.
And of course, we just asked the question how long it would take, assuming nothing went wrong. Oh, they're opening it up. Oh, we just don't know. Commentator's curse in its finest form here, folks. Okay. First question. I think I will go around the horn on this one, and I assume this is on everyone's mind, including those in the audience. So, LA Bow asking, do you think B-14-2 will be caught again? Ryan, I'm going to start with you.
Ooh. I think they'll try. There's no reason not to try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they don't fly it a third time, why not try and see what 2 full flights does to a booster? Although I will say, while getting more data from I guess it's block 2 at this point, from this block of booster, it's kind of pointless. After looking at Test Tank 17 or B18.1, whatever we want to call it, after looking at that, the next generation booster test tank, there's barely any similarities. Like, there's barely anything. Basically, the similarities are, it's 9 meters, it's stainless steel, and it uses Raptor. Like, it's kind of nuts. There's a lot of changes. Data is still data, and it'll still help, but I think they'll try to bring it back, but I don't think they'll fly it again after that.
That's fair. Assuming obviously if they catch it. Alex, what about you?
I would like to see them catch him, but I have no idea. I can see the side of like, well, but they already have too many boosters, and they're gonna be moving to Block 3 now.
Yep.
And so I can see the side of like, it's old stuff. They can manage with the amount of boosters that they have and reusing them at least once and things like that. So why catch it? Just dump it, things while you re-enter. Like they did that with Falcon 9, right? They only landed the first few reused boosters, but then after I think it was on the 4th reused booster, they started to dump them. They was like, nope, we're gonna be dumping them. We're gonna be expending them in the ocean, and as we do that, we try out new things. And so they were trying new re-entry profiles. They maybe removed the landing legs, but they kept the grid fins, and so they were able to, go through the atmosphere and try new stuff and things like that. So I can see the benefit of doing that with Super Heavy, right? Especially now that they are moving onto Block 3, and they are, they will be able to implement a bunch of these learnings into the new design now that it's still fresh, if you will, right?
Right.
So that I can see that argument as well, right? Of like, let's dump it, let's try something interesting on that reentry, let's try something else that gathers data for us to improve future vehicles. And again, they did that with Falcon 9. They kept saying, we're expanding these vehicles on the second flight because the future ones will be a lot better. And lo and behold, we have a booster at LC-39A doing a 28th flight, right? And so it's like, that is the whole purpose of gathering extra data. Sure, it's a pity, right? Like, you don't want to see the hardware being expended, but if it's for a good cause, so be it.
All fair points to make. D, you and I are hopefully going to be making the trek to Starbase relatively soon. What are you hoping to see next week? Hopefully, if it launches then.
Of course, I would love to see another booster catch. Seeing what these things look like after they've flown 2 times is, I think, just as interesting as seeing what they look like after they've flown 1 time. And so I want to be hopeful. I want to see that catch. At the same time, I would understand if they, for whatever reason, decide not to. But I want to see a catch. Of course, I want to see a catch.
Agreed. I think it's going to be really interesting depending on what they decide to do with its flight profile, whether they opt to test in multiple engine outs for boost back, and if that's successful, if they opt to test 1 or more engines out for landing burn, or maybe under extreme circumstances, maybe one of the center 3 Raptors down for the final portion of the landing burn to see how it performs. Or just some other flight profiles like its re-entry angle into the atmosphere, either adjusting its steepness for more or less. They have to do as much testing with these Block 1 boosters as they possibly can to gain as much understanding of how these boosters perform in flight, especially on the return journey, as possible. Even though the Block 1 boosters are really not going to hold much relevance once they get into either a V2.5 ship or especially V3 ship, they are still incredibly valuable data gatherers. So it's going to be really interesting to see how hard they push Booster 14 in this case. But yeah, I am hoping, honestly, it might be really neat to see if they opt to try and bring it back and then have to abort it and throw it into the water right off the coast. Heaven forbid. Those of us who actually have gear out there know that one of their abort zones is literally the dunes surrounding the launch pad. And we are hoping that they will never have to utilize that, because that would royally suck for those who have cameras and other gear there, including us. So hopefully they don't have to utilize that. But it's going to be really interesting to see how hard they push Booster 14. Oh boy, Ryan, they are looking at that right power pack there.
They're looking at both. It feels like we were bound for one of those rollouts where the SPMTs weren't working great. We might have hit that one,
No, man, I don't like. Don't go there. Don't go there. Not before Flight 9, man. Come on, there's too much writing on this one. Goodness gracious.
I mean, if it's only the SPMTs that are having issues and not the vehicles, I think we would be fine.
You guys remember that one time? Was that a ship or a booster roll where it just stopped on Highway 4?
Ship 25 before Flight 2, yes. It just stopped
it was ship
for like an
25.
hour. Yeah.
I was operating that stream too. Remember that?
I do remember that.
It was 25's final rollout to the pad. I think
Eric Fraser in chat is remembering that the midway. He's saying the midway breakdown was awesome. It was not awesome. It was like the middle of the night, wasn't it?
It was. And also to add to our woes, Jack was one of the people in the convoy stuck behind it.
That's right.
He was. That was I mean, looking back, it's fun, but I'm sure in the moment it would have been mega frustrating for everybody involved. But that's just how it goes, and hopefully we don't have another case of that tonight. But the SPMT certainly has. They have not been making a ton of progress, certainly not as quickly as we would like to see, as they're moving it forward a little slowly, I guess, to test out something. Make sure all's nominal.
In my expert opinion, turn it off, turn it back on again. Trust me, it works more than you know.
I mean, that's just the default action whenever something doesn't work. What are they looking at? Are they inspecting the tires?
They seem to be looking at something with the power pack that's kind of a little iffy. It's rolling, but slowly.
Very slowly, yeah. And each wheel is powered individually, so it's not like if they have one wheel go down, the entire system is doomed. Like each wheel can steer and power and level itself individually. So, not too much to worry about if they have one or two maybe troublesome axles, but multiple, and especially with the power pack, it might make for. You know what? I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to manifest it. In the meantime, I'm going to run through some support really quick because we had it coming on right when we went live and the panel was broken. The Cosmic Nebula gifting 5 Red Team memberships to 5 lucky viewers. Cosmic, you are a legend. Bideford, a name that we see here very often, gifting another 5 Red Team memberships to 5 lucky viewers. Thank you, Bideford. And the Cosmic Nebula coming back, gifting 5 more. Man, Bideford, you have competition. And the Ninja Decimator, pew pew pew, with a $5 super chat. Don't jinx the rollout. Well, Ninja Decimator, I think we're already there. Unfortunately, we've already said it. Well, we haven't said the dreaded S word to this point. Well, one of us
Michael Reed did.
That was before we went live, though. So does that curse still hold?
It still counts.
Does it count?
100% still counts.
Why?
Yeah.
Why does that count?
I feel like it was also said this morning, actually.
But this morning went well, though.
But it wasn't a launch.
Well, this isn't a launch either, at least on the left. But there is, you know what? There is a launch. There is a launch involved in tonight's stream. So I guess. Ooh, question here from Michael Pilnick. Alex, do we know the dry mass of a super heavy booster, at least in how the Block 1 has evolved?
As far as I know, it's well over 200 metric tons. I'm sure maybe Ryan can give you a better sort of estimate, but yeah, it's merely that, just an estimate. We don't know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Just the
I
engines
think-
alone are heavy.
Yeah.
Just the engines plus its shielding is like 60 tons. The shielding. Oh, okay. I think the shielding is like 10 to 20. The engines alone are 50 tons. The hot stage ring is 10 tons. I would assume this is around 240, 250 or higher.
Yeah, we don't know the
problem
exact.
we don't.
I was gonna say we don't know the exact number, right? But we can guess based on other numbers that we've seen. Like, for example, the engines and their shielding. We know that from SpaceX. They've put that out on X recently. Last year, they put out numbers of like, this is how much the engines weigh, and this is how much shielding each one of them needs, and things like that. And so you can do the math, and it's like well over 50 tons just for the engines and their shielding, and that's just the engines. And then you've got, as Ryan was saying, 10 tons from the hot staging ring. We know that from environmental assessments and things like that. And so when you add up even just the non-tank stuff, you still get close to 100 tons. Now you have to add all of the barrel sections, the plumbing, you have to add the COPVs, the composite overwrap pressure vessels. You need to add all of the wiring and all the little things. Like, when you add all of that up, it goes well beyond 200 metric tons. It's just, it's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean the dry mass compared to wet mass of rocket, like the ratio of dry mass to wet mass it's about 10% of a rocket's mass is just its tank structure, its engines, and any other supporting hardware. And about 90% roughly of any rocket's weight is propellant. So super heavy with a full load of methane and liquid oxygen on the first stage. It's like what, 3,000 metric tons, somewhere around there? Does that sound right?
I believe it's 3,600.
So more.
Full load for a booster. Because you're adding. They're able to get a little bit more room with the elliptical dome in the center. So yeah, it's probably around 3,700 metric tons.
It's just never fully loaded to that, right? It's always a little bit under that, 3,400.
It's always
the
hard
capacities. Yeah.
And mind you, the
It's a
Block
bit
1
different.
boosters themselves have actually gotten a lot heavier in their lifespan compared to when they started, because even though they lost the HPUs, they gained additional shines and longer shines. They gained additional structuring inside the tanks, the motors for the electric TVC, the hot staging ring. They have gained a lot of weight compared to how the Block 1 booster started way back, even before the Flight 1 campaign in April of 2023. So Block 1 has evolved significantly. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So they are back on the move again, it looks like. And looking, are they... It looks like they're moving at full speed now, thankfully. For now. I don't want to jinx it again. Nope, nobody? Okay.
I was trying to watch see if they actually are moving at full speed. It seems like it's slower. I don't think they're moving that fast.
I think we can see it
Maybe
moving in this view. Yeah, they're moving.
Yeah,
They're not making as much progress as we hoped they would by this point, but no roll is perfect, as I'm sure any small issue can trigger any amount of hold. But this is a great angle comparing the size of the booster and the ever-evolving Star Factory and some sparks from the X high bay in the background there as the demolition of that continues. Ooh. Okay, I've seen this question come up more than once, but I want to ask it here from the Angry Engineer. Is the Pi Raptor being reused on this flight? I don't think we have any official confirmation, and there's no way for us to tell, at least during lift, because pre-flight SpaceX has fit these like new covers on each of the Raptor's engine bells, which obviously we can tell when the covers are off what each engine's number is. But obviously with the covers on, we can't tell. But they said that 29 of its 33 are flight-proven engines. So does anyone know if we have any sort of confirmation or hinting that Raptor 314 is back on Booster 14?
It's a maybe. We'll find out either at liftoff or during the catch, or if SpaceX mentions it during the stream. Those are the only times we'll find out. So
I wonder if there could be some photographers or videographers that could, take a shot of the engines at liftoff.
I wonder. Yeah. Well, you have to be in the right spot for it, because if assuming Raptor 314 is reinstalled on Booster 14 and the location it was installed to is the same as it was on Booster 12.
It's an outer engine.
Yeah, it's an outer engine. So I'm just running through my head where our cameras would have to be in order to see where it is. So I think assuming the plume behaves, depending on the wind conditions and what the plume does at liftoff, our cameras near Hopper may have a view of it, assuming it is in the same orientation. So I don't know. Fingers crossed. It would be rad, and also a real shame if 314 was reinstalled again for a third flight, and they opted to throw it away into the drink. That would be a very tragic happening. But yeah, pray for the homie 314. Okay, I'm gonna answer a question quickly about the Starlink launch tonight before we get too deep into coverage for that. What's the PGO for tonight's launch? I have a friend on a cruise in the Bahamas trying to watch. Oh, fantastic. So the PGO, or the percentage of go tonight, I think at the opening of the window. D, you had the updated forecast. What was it again?
I believe D is not around right now, but I can tell you.
Oh, D is currently unavailable. Go ahead, Alex.
Yep. So the weather forecast for the Starlink launch, it called for a 50% favorable chance at the beginning of the window, but it improves to 90% favorable weather conditions for the launch towards the end of the window. We don't know where's that, transition, right, between it just says 50% arrow, 10%, right? So where that arrow is, when it improves, we're not fully sure, but I'm guessing you two that are out there in the field, you can probably eyeball maybe around now, once it gets a little bit better, that weather out there in Florida. But yeah, the weather is expected to get better later in the window, so hopefully we'll get that launch. Not later in the window. We want that to happen as soon as possible. 1 hour,
yes, please.
27 minutes, and 10 seconds from now. But they still have some room left.
Kevin, what is this slow fade? What is this slow
What are
fade,
you
Kevin?
doing
That's
there?
just painful.
But there you
Kevin.
can see what I was meaning here with the it says the probability of violating. It's the opposite of what I was explaining, right? It's 50%, 10%, So the go probability, the favorable condition probability, that will be the opposite of this. So it will be 50. That's easy. It's 50. But then
Yep.
90% go for the later portions of the window. Again, we just don't know how later is that later portion, right? So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, we get that launch in 1 hour and 26 minutes from now.
Yeah, and it's worth noting. It's worth noting as well that the forecast for tonight's launch window, even last night, it has improved since then. Because last night it was at I think starting at 70% chance of violation, down to 30 at the end of the window, and obviously now it's at 50 and 10. So weather has improved. Although the weather here on the Space Coast today has been rather crummy, but thankfully in the last maybe 4 to 5 hours, the weather has cleared out. Has begun to clear out rather nicely, and we are down to just a thin layer of high altitude clouds and a full moon greeting us in the southern skies at the moment. So weather is trending in the right direction, as we like to say.
You know what's trending in the right direction? This fade.
Oh gosh.
Oh, come on, Kevin.
Kevin. Oh yeah, by the way, Kevin Michael Reed is also the one behind the scenes pushing the buttons and pulling the levers tonight, folks.
Oh, you remembered me, finally. How long have we been streaming? For 35 minutes?
Better late than never, I always say, right?
Thanks. So anyways, I have to explain this fade. So we share profiles on the main switcher, and someone must have at some point opened up my profile and saved it when they were done, but they changed the merge transition to be an 8-second fade. So that's why you keep getting that, and I keep forgetting to fix it. So, yeah.
Kevin, you know what that sounds like?
An excuse.
A skill issue.
That too.
We love you, Kevin.
Yeah, love you too, man.
I love you, Kevin. I didn't forget about you. I did bring you up at some point. Just for the record, everyone heard it. Everyone heard it.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Ooh, actually, Kevin, while we have you on the line, a question here from Human with the question. I think it's time for that all-important question. When patch?
Why are you asking me when patch?
Because I feel like it, Kevin.
Well, the answer to that question is as soon as we have a full stack, and it is more of a primetime window, so everybody has a good chance to get it. So, full stack. That's the general rule. That's always the rule, and hopefully we'll be there in the next couple days.
Maybe even within the next 24 hours, perhaps, because there is a closure tomorrow to get ship 35. Well, actually, no, that's to get it back to the production site. My bad. Couple days. Couple days. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves yet.
Crispy is suggesting transitions for the stream.
I'm seeing that in the back channel now.
Yeah. He wants something like this.
I mean, it was a lot quicker than the fade transition. To be fair.
We should focus.
What is this? What is this? Microsoft PowerPoint, like 2003? Like.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's retro. We're going retro. It's 20 years. We're celebrating 20 years. Retro. See?
Yeah. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Exactly.
Right? And you know what's not broken? Right. You know what's not broken at the moment, as far as we know? Booster 14, because it's currently on the way to the launch site. At this point, it looks like it is completely past the Star Factory and making its way down the main stretch of Highway 4 on the way to the launch site, hopefully getting there within the next hour or so. Hopefully, if those pesky SPMTs don't stop rolling multiple times like they have so far.
They're going kind of slow right now. I don't know how long this is going to take, but this might take a while. Unless they speed up here.
Ryan, don't say that. I almost said Alex. Ryan, don't say that. Ryan, don't say that. It's too late. Yeah, it is a bit late now, unfortunately. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, a question or just a comment here from Mad Hunter. Another doubler. Did you guys even sleep?
I did. I got a few.
You did. Must be nice.
Well, here's the thing. I had worked my 4 days. I worked, got home, immediately got on the stream at around 9 o'clock, helped finish up covering the OLM lift and the static fire, the Ship 35 static fire. The other two small things that happened at Starbase today.
Yep.
And then did stuff, slept for a few hours, was waiting to see if Booster would come out. It eventually did later on in the night, and now here I am on like 3 hours of sleep in like the last, I don't know, day and a half. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Once this thing gets to the launch site, I plan on sleeping for a good chunk of time.
That would be
Whenever it
nice.
happens.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. But the Flight 9 campaign's launch is rapidly approaching. As soon, or I should say, no earlier than May 21st, which is just about 9 days from now. So, what even is sleep? We don't sleep around Starship. Although the afternoon windows are certainly greatly appreciated by us here in the U.S. Can't speak for our European colleagues. Cough, Alex. Ooh,
Hi.
okay. Hi. Okay, so this is actually a question I've seen come up a lot, and I want to know if we can dive into it a bit deeper. The angry engineer coming back with the question: why did they skip the V2 booster and they went straight to V3? I don't know if we have a clear-cut answer for that. Ryan or Alex, do either of you have any insight as to why that could be?
You want to give your answer, Alex? Because I think you might be a little more succinct with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's quite a joke.
Not the same one, but
about being
it's a joke.
succinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, it just seems like they are retroactively calling from the first flight of the V2 ship, also the booster, calling it V2 as well, just for consistency's sake. It seems like, because the next one, the next generation of boosters, they're calling it V3, and apparently there was a certain SpaceX worker there at Starbase who said on X that these boosters, or at least when they rolled booster 17, for example, he called it the last of the V2s. So it's like, excuse me, right? And so it kind of seems like they are, in sort of in hindsight, they're calling it, booster 14, 15, 16, and 17. All of those seems like they are all version 2 or block 2, and then the next generation will be block 3. I'm mostly sure that what we saw last year, I think it was last year, about the Starship 1, 2, and 3 and whatever, that end game, that long ship and long booster and everything, that's probably going to be more blocks down the line. We've seen this with Falcon 9 as well, where we had V1.0, 1.1, 1.2, then 1.2 had block 1, block 2, 3, 4, and 5, and even within block 5 they have different subversions, sub-blocks as we call them. And so just get ready for much more of this confusion of V1, V2, V3, and all that stuff, and retroactively calling some of these vehicles other versions and stuff like that. So yeah, just get ready for that, because we've gone through that with Falcon 9.
Yes.
Starship will not be any different.
I'm trying to train myself to just call it the next generation booster.
Which one? Which one? This booster 14 or V3?
The block 3 would be the next generation booster.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is the current generation.
Because this is current gen. I'm trying to call that the next generation booster right now, because everyone asks, well, isn't it block 2 or V2 or whatever? It's like, no, anymore.
I mean, as we said earlier, block 1 has evolved a lot. And so based on the changes at hand, I think a moniker of V2 or block 2, I think it does seem appropriate considering exactly what has been changed. And again, they ditched the HPUs or the hydraulic power units after Flight 1 in favor of electric TVC or thrust vector control for the Raptors. They gained. Did they gain a shine? Was it? I know they all got longer
bigger.
For sure. Yeah,
Shines got bigger between 7 and 9 because they stuck the CO2 tanks in for the fire suppression system.
Yep.
It was booster 10 that got the elliptical dome as the common dome.
Yep.
Booster 11 and up got, they think it was tripled, is either double or tripled the stringers in the methane tank. I have to double check the numbers again, but they significantly increased the stringers in the methane tank. As far as we know, at least it could have been 13 or 14, but absolutely. With Booster 15, we saw them add the landing tank extensions to it. I assume 14 has them, and possibly 13 has it as well. Between Booster 13 had changes to the raceways, and then you gotta go up a little bit there. They did some relocation of the FTS charge locations. The biggest change is, like, if you were to take Booster 12 and Booster 17 side by side, you'd see the raceway changes, the location changes, the Booster FTS boxes, and little bits and pieces all over the vehicle. So they've done a lot of little changes. Of course, there's internal stuff that we don't see either. But they've done a ton over the course between Booster 7 and Booster 17 being all the ones with 33 engines, because Booster 4 and Booster 5 doesn't count because they don't count.
They don't. I mean, they also never flew, nor do they have a full static fire of all its engines. So
the funniest thing was Booster 5 had the landing tank on the side. That was still one of the funniest things ever.
Oh God, you're right.
Yeah,
that was so long ago, man. Jeez Louise, you're right. That's kind of scary.
I found an old gem from SpaceX. We joke about the whole, next generation thing and everything to sort of, not confuse and everything. But they used that when they moved from the V1.0 to the V1.1 on Falcon 9. They used next generation Falcon 9. And I think at the time they probably didn't even have a name for that version. And looking back and everything. So they also used that at some point when they were like, what do we call this? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, either way... Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Let's say I am curious if SpaceX mentions the next booster gen in the Flight 9 stream. By the way, it looks like Booster's not moving at all. They're doing something with SPMT, so yeah. I hope they mention something and they talk a little bit about it, because I just want them to. I want more information badly. So, but one can hope.
One can hope. Speaking of hope, I'm going to once again go around the horn for this question from Adam F. What do you put Flight 9's chances of success at? D, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, you're really putting me on the spot here.
Have to, of course.
It's hard to say specifically without knowing what work has been done, what improvements have been made. After seeing the last two flights and how they have performed, we don't know really in depth what changes have been made to prevent that from happening again. So any actual number would be a complete guess, so I don't really feel comfortable putting a number on it. Of course, I'm hopeful. I want to see success here, but I'm not going to hold my breath, I guess I would say.
Okay, so then if we don't put a number on it, do you think it will make Seco or not? Just simply, black and white.
I don't want to be a pessimist, so I'm not going to answer that.
No, D.
No, that's
not you too.
That's a cop out.
Dead gummit. Ryan, what about you?
I'm going to give a percentage. Without knowing what they've done entirely, I will update it once SpaceX gives out an update. Which also, I do have to say, they did not post yet about that about 35 static fire.
They did not. You are correct.
Which is odd. Maybe we'll get that tomorrow along with an update. Fingers crossed. And they go by targeting this date for launch. Fingers crossed on that one. But without having that update and knowing what mitigations they've done, like if they've stuck accumulators on on the inlet lines or anything along those lines to try to mitigate the pogo issue they seem to have, because it seems to be pogo. At least I don't know what else it could be at this point. I'm gonna give ship 35 a 30 to 35% chance of making it past eco.
Oh man, just a world of pessimists we're in. Alex, please tell me you have a more promising opinion, or more hopeful opinion, I should say. Oh no, off to a
See,
great
the problem
start there.
is, I was hopeful prior to Flight 7. I jinxed Flight 7. I always tell this
It's all your
story
fault.
that there was a Raptor site before Flight 7, and we were asked what the percentages of doing the different milestones, because it was a Block 2 ship, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, the ascent and getting to Seco, that's gonna be, that's already figured out and everything. And then we saw what happened with Flight 7. So I promised to not do anything like that for Flight 8, and I'm not gonna do it for Flight 9. So you're gonna have to wait. Just ask me this for Flight 10 if Flight 9 goes well.
Keyword if Flight 9 goes well.
Yeah, that's the keyword.
If I had to weigh in with my opinion, I am hopeful that Ship 35 makes it to Seco. I would like to think, and this is obviously wishful thinking, I would like to think that SpaceX has taken one would hope that they have taken a lot of time and effort, which they obviously have, because Ship 35 spent a lot of time in Mega Bay 2 to do what they can to mitigate any sort of pogo or harmonic resonance within the ship itself, whether it's isolated to the downcomers or transfer tubes, whatever you want to call them, from the methane tank to the RVACs, or the LOX tank, or just the methane tank. Like, whatever they have deemed it isolated down to, I hope that they have taken significant, or they have made a good effort to mitigate that as much as possible just to get it to Seco. There is a lot riding on this mission. It cannot be understated. And the fact that they are choosing to launch Ship 35 on a flight-proven booster, and it will be the first reused bit of Starship hardware in the program, there's a lot at stake here. And there are a lot of question marks, and there are a lot of questions. And certainly a lot of concern, not just for Ship, but also the booster itself. So I want to say I'm confident that it'll go well, but assuming Booster 14 has a nominal boost phase and they get through hot staging as they should, at that point, Booster coming back does not deem success or failure for the mission. So just as long as they can get past hot staging, I'm hopeful that Ship 35 makes it to Seco. Very long-winded answer of saying I'm hopeful.
Did you put a number on that at all?
I did not, but you didn't either, so you can't really say.
That's true. That's true.
I just wanted to bring that up, that you really wanted a number, but you weren't willing to put one on it either.
Yeah, but like Ryan, we are 1 for 4 in any of us putting a number on this question. So I think whatever, it's fine, D. It's fine. It's fine.
I just have this nagging feeling that it's gonna be, oh my goodness, they caught Booster 14. Cut back to Ship 35. It's got a fire in its aft compartment. They lose an RVAC and it blows up again.
You mean like the last 2 flights have gone? Like exactly like the last 2 flights have gone?
Yes, exactly. I just had this feeling. And they're going to catch the booster. Everyone's going to be excited. And it's going to cut the ship and it'll blow up.
I'm never going to forget that. So I was over at the Rocket Ranch Outpost. Thank you, Gomi, for Flight 8. And after booster catch, we were amped, we were pumped. Imagery looked great. I jumped down off of the top level of the I don't want to call it a balcony, but like the building over there. And I went into a closed room to start editing. And the first thing I do is throw up our stream to see how Ship's doing. And the first thing I see is Ship tumbling. I'm never gonna forget that feeling of just, my heart sinking into my stomach, and just dread. So, Booster 14 finally back on the move?
Yep, it's moving. And it's going. Maybe they fixed it.
Maybe they fixed it. Ryan, is that optimism from you, I hear?
Maybe a little bit.
Optimism?
I would, I was going to say, in relation to Flight 8, I kind of wish I had recorded my reaction, although I don't know if you would have been able to record the audio because of certain words said. But they caught the booster, they cut to ship, and I saw the melted RVAC, the RVAC cooling channel, and then I saw the fire. You could see all the outgassing and the fire that was in the engine bay, and I just went, oh my god, they just lost ship again. Because I'm like, at that point, the ship is dead. They broke a LOX line at that point. Like, they're just spewing liquid oxygen into the bay. And then I was just like, the look on my face would have been great to record. Because I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it certainly does not bring up, or it doesn't bring positive feelings to look back on the last two missions, especially Flight 8 being the second failure in a row. We are hoping for the best with Flight 9, and given what's at stake, SpaceX needs it. The trajectory for the entire program will entirely depends on how this flight goes. So we are crossing our fingers, our toes, everything we got, and we are wishing them the absolute best, and that Booster 14 and Ship 35 perform as they are meant to. Really quick, y'all, before I forget, I wanted to mention the couple of lovely chaps we have in the field with cameras running around trying to get us additional views. We have Caesar and Gage also running around in Boca with cameras and getting us additional views for the live stream. This is currently Caesar's camera alongside Highway 4. Tracking remotely, it looks like, or at least tracking remotely. How about that? Is this CP11, Kevin, or is this not CP11? He's typing in the back channel. No, this is Caesar's camera. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, right along Highway 4 there, Booster 14, making a lot of stops and goes as it is making its way to the launch site at the moment. Go ahead, Ryan.
It's on a longboard following a booster. Kevin's yelling at you in the back channel here.
Is that him on the right hand side there? Is that him on the road?
Yes.
Kevin is yelling at me that yes. Actually, I can see his longboard there in front of him. Love you, Caesar.
It takes a lot of confidence to be on a longboard with a camera, and definitely not something I would do at this point. That
Booster
is
14,
awesome.
Yes,
There's going
100%.
again. Come
It's on
on,
the move again.
SPMTs.
For how long?
Stay
For
working.
how long? Yes.
We're almost within an hour of Starlink, so.
Oh
And
goodness
it's
gracious.
not, and it hasn't even passed the village yet. It's had so much issues right now.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's past the intersection yet from where you would enter the village.
It's not even It's,
yeah.
It's
yes.
past St. Martin. It's past Martin.
Okay.
It's going past where the old tracking station.
Yep.
And solar farm was, but it's not past LDJ yet. So.
Not yet, but hopefully they will pass it very soon. Safe to say they had not been making the progress that we hoped they would to this point. But you know what? It could be just dumb issues with the SPMTs that are causing them issues. So that's just how the ball rolls sometimes. Just roll with it. But in the meantime, we are coming up within an hour of the Starlink 6-83 mission from right here at the Kennedy Space Center. So another doubleheader from NSF tonight, folks. We are tired. We are eepy, but we are always excited and happy to bring you as much coverage of any spaceflight activity as we possibly can. Seeing some venting there from the transporter erector at LC-39A. This lines up with about when we would see venting of this sort before they go into countdown and before prop load, which would be in about 25-ish minutes. So fingers crossed. As far as we know, they are still targeting 1:02 a.m. Eastern time here on the east coast of Florida. So fingers crossed that countdown goes well. But in the meantime, we have Booster 14 rolling from the production site in Mega Bay 1 over to the launch site for hopefully its last rollout before Starship Flight 9. It has been a rather troublesome move tonight, I think it's safe to say, from the looks of things. There's been a lot of stops and goes from the SPMTs, but they're still making progress, and any forward progress is good progress. So, yeah, there we go. Rounding that right-hand corner before it hits the main stretch of Highway 4 heading to the launch site. So, looks like progress. I don't want to jinx it again. I've already jinxed it like 3 or 4 times already. I don't want to jinx it again. Yeah, no, it's all my fault. But it looks like it's making good progress at the moment. Hopefully, it can stay that way. In the meantime, I'm going to knock out some support really quick because I am a bit behind. Unity gifting 5 red team memberships to 5 lucky viewers, along with Sheriff Tracy, a name that we see here pretty often, gifting another 5 red team memberships, and the Cosmic Nebula coming back, gifting 10 red team memberships to 10 lucky viewers. Very generous support from all y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching with us and gifting additional memberships to those who haven't had it already. As a reminder, folks, Cap Coming Above memberships get you full Discord access to the NSF team to talk with us and other spaceflight nerds about anything spaceflight, and also a variety of topics that are not spaceflight. It's a good place to hang out. I'd recommend checking it out, but Cap Coming Above gets you that full access. All right. Ooh, this is a fun question. I think we've had this question before, but it's always worth a revisit. From Severin Fisher. Would they ever want to test fire a ship on top of a hot staging ring to test how long it takes to become damaged? Oh, I see. This is worded differently than I thought. To become damaged, how much it can be reused on future integrated hot staging rings?
No. No. No.
Ryan with the immediate no.
No. Hey, I got a question. Do you want the ship to blow up? Because that's how you blow up a ship.
I mean, it's worth noting that the hot staging ring for the Block 1, or I guess as these are now called Block 2 boosters, are of a much different design than the Block 3 or V3 boosters coming up, hopefully by the end of the year, in that they have much thinner support structures, and they are also integrated structurally into the booster, whereas currently the hot staging ring that we are seeing now from boosters, is it 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, 15? Yeah. Every single booster that's flown apart from Flight 1 has had this hot staging ring fitted to it, but that was a retrofit design, as when Starship first flew a couple years ago, hot staging was not the form of stage separation that SpaceX was aiming for. So they have essentially refined a retrofit, and that is the current design of hot staging ring. But I think the hot... Go ahead, Alex.
Well, what are you going to say? Hang on.
No, I was just going to say that the hot staging rings are only designed to withstand thrust for like 1 to 3 seconds, and that's all the interaction they'll have with the upper stage. Anything beyond that would probably cause any warping or melting, or worst comes to worst, just full-on destruction of the hot staging ring. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's also the fact that the conditions here on the ground are not the same that at altitude, because at altitude you have lower pressure, and therefore the exhaust from the engines expands differently. It literally expands. We see that as rockets go up. Hopefully we're going to see that tonight with Falcon 9 as well. As you go into thinner atmosphere, that expansion makes it such that, while on the ground, it looks more like a torch, right? It's concentrated in one single point.
Yep.
At altitude, it is expanded, and therefore the impingement against the hot staging ring is different. So much so that you need very complex, calculations and modeling to be able to go through that. And recently, we found out that apparently SpaceX asked NASA for their supercomputers to be able to analyze the interaction between the exhaust from the engines with the hot staging ring, and also with the booster itself, because now that hot gas gets out of the hot staging ring, and now it flows down to the booster, and so it cooks the booster. So you need to be able to model all of that to make sure that it's going to survive. So they were able to do all of that back in 2023 when they were updating the booster with a hot staging ring for the second flight, and lo and behold, we saw that everything went fine. So far, hot staging has worked for every single flight since then. So it doesn't seem to me like you firing it on the ground will be any replicate of what you're going to see in the conditions at altitude, right? The only way to truly replicate those conditions, because it's low atmospheric pressure, is just to fly it. And so once they have Block 3 up and running and that integrated hot staging, then they're just going to be flying it and see how it performs. And if it needs any repairs, any upgrades, they'll just do that. Just like this SPMT, I guess, because it's stopped again.
Apparently, the SPMTs are having multiple temper tantrums tonight, which is obstructing progress to getting Booster 14 back to the launch site for hopefully the last time. But yeah, they are. They haven't even made it past LBJ Drive and Starbase yet, so they have a bit longer to go. But now we are within the 1 hour mark of the Starlink 6-83 mission, which is going to be launching from right here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So let's talk about that for a little bit now, since we are within an hour. Alex, would you mind giving us a quick rundown of what exactly is launching on top of Falcon 9 tonight?
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get under 1 hour from now those 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites on board Falcon 9. And one of the things is, of course, it's a Group 6 mission. It's Group 6-83, and so it's going to be launching to a 43-degree inclination orbit. That means it's going to head out southeast out of the Cape. And so we're going to have, hopefully, that. Now, as we mentioned yesterday on the first attempt, this is not your ordinary Starlink. We have a record holder here of a booster, booster B1067. It's already done 27 flights. This will be its 28th. Neat fact, because I wanted to know about this, it's launched already 517 satellites. With this mission, it'll go to 545. It's not the record holder on that, because there's other boosters, prior boosters, especially when they were launching, 60 Starlink satellites at a time and everything, that surpassed that, but definitely one up there in the number of, mass of the metric tons that it has been able to launch into orbit. Lots of missions. CRS-22, Crew 3, TruckSat 5B, Crew 4, CRS-25, Hotbird 13G, O3b Empower A, Satria, Meraputi 2, Galileo L13, and KoreaSat 6A. That's just 11 customer missions, and then you have another, 15, 16 Starlink satellite launches, right? And so there's a lot riding on this booster. We're seeing here the comparison between Super Heavy, first reuse of a Super Heavy booster, versus the 28th reflight of just one single Falcon 9 booster. I guess it's technically the 27th reflight because it's reflight, but anyways.
We are seeing a lot of venting from the transporter erector. Normally, we don't see this amount of venting until we get to about the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second mark. Alex, what do you think we're seeing right now?
It's somewhat normal at LC-39A. Like it seems like it's a bit closer to how it's how we see, for example, at Starbase, we see the Pope vent, and we see the OLM vent and the tower vent and everything. So we see all of these different vents. At Falcon 9 at LC-39A, they have the ground systems, the tank farm, right? All of that needs to be chilled down. They subcool the liquid oxygen. They also cool down a little bit the RP1. And then all of that transfer line from the tank farm to the transport erector needs to get chilled down. And then the line up to the transport erector needs to be chilled down. And then the line that goes from the transport erector to the second stage needs to be chilled down. So when we see the T-minus 20-minute vent, the one that gets chilled down at that point is that little portion between the transport reactor and the second stage. So some of these venting could be related to the previous step to that, which is the chill down of those transfer lines to the transport reactor, which is, it's step by step. It's one portion, then the next, then the next. Every little bit of area matters here because it's a very big pad. And the liquid oxygen tanks are really far away, which I'm probably sure is what affects some of these timings and why we see more venting here than, say, at Slick 40 for these missions. But yeah, that's what I've been sort of thinking about ever since we've seen this sort of action for the last couple of years. It's always been this sort of venting like the last hour before the launch.
And it's worth noting that the venting that we're seeing from the TE right now is incredibly visible, and the amount of venting that you can see either from the tanks or from the TE is a direct indicator of the weather conditions here on the Space Coast of Florida. D, you and I both know it has been not a great day for weather, and you can almost drink the air here right now. It is so humid. How has the weather been all day today, and how is it looking right now and through the rest of the launch window tonight?
You know, it has been a rainy day. We had last night when they went for this launch, we had just bands and bands of rain coming through here, so they couldn't launch last night. But today the weather is much improved. So the 45th Weather Squadron, which of course puts together forecasts for these missions to predict the chance that weather will prevent a launch, gave this one, this is an interesting one. You can see it's 50% to 10%. So that's a 50% chance of violating the weather constraints at the start of the window, decreasing to a 10% chance of violating weather constraints at the end of the window. Now, this window opened up about 40 minutes ago. It opened up around 11:30, and it goes until 3 a.m. But the main things that they were looking at as a concern were the cumulus clouds rule as well as the surface electric fields rule. So if SpaceX saw that those have dramatically improved, they've already shifted that T0 to this 1:02 a.m. time that they seem to be working towards right now. So it seems like we could be getting towards the 10% end of that, and even when it is a very low chance of launch, SpaceX likes to thread the needle. So that 10% chance of violation, that's a 90% chance of go weather conditions. So honestly, while the weather today has not been good, at this point, it's pretty good for a launch.
It has certainly gotten better, even within the last couple of hours since getting ready to go live. The weather has improved significantly, and also the wind has dropped as well. The flag was blowing pretty good just a few hours ago, and now, while it was completely just still against the flagpole here at the press site, now it is blowing a little bit, but the wind has all but almost died here on the Space Coast of Florida. But the weather is trending in the right direction for launch, hopefully in just about 49. And apparently Booster 14 is back on the move again in Starbase. It is. Look at that. Wait, is it? No, that's just the camera moving. Is it moving? Come on, camera, focus. I believe in you. I believe in you.
It's moving.
How can you tell? It's out of focus.
Because I'm looking at other cameras.
Oh, I see. Okay. See, I'm not, so I can only see.
I'm looking at SPL.
This is Starbase Live.
Yeah, SPL. It's like
I don't have the screen space to pull up Starbase Live at the same time, unfortunately. So I am limited to what is being shown currently on stream. But
Max, get better.
Yes, sir. Wow.
Yeah, it
Alex
sounds like a
coming in. Wow, Alex coming in out of left field. Yeah. Alex, vicious. I didn't know you were.
Wait, you're calling someone vicious? What?
Anyway. Let's get back to some Starship questions for the time being. Book Realms 4 was actually a really good question, as we've seen this posed before from Elon and others. Do we know if Block 3 boosters will have 35 engines?
No. It'll be 33.
Yeah, I was going to say, as far as we know, we had a glimpse of the engine section of Test Tank 17. Now I think we can call it Booster 18, I think is what we're allowed to call it now.
18.1 or whatever.
18.1, yeah. That the engine section was visible at the very bottom of it, and it looked very similar in design to how the 33 engines are currently installed on the V1 or I guess V2 boosters now. Is that a Coyote? Is it a Coyote?
Nice, looks like, yeah.
Or Fox?
Doggo.
Too.
Doggo. It's got 13 gimbal mounts installed, and it's got 20 outer engine mounts installed. So it's got 33 engines. So
33 Raptors. I think at one point, Elon and SpaceX want to cram 2 more sea-level Raptors onto the first stage for additional performance, but that is going to be quite the squeeze under the current design. unless they can somehow downsize Raptor and maintain its current performance. But that is quite the challenge, and Raptor 3 in itself is proven to be quite the challenge so far. So, but at the moment, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
It's not as simple as just sticking 2 Raptors on there.
No.
Like the design they've had so far is 33 engines. Sticking 2 more Raptors means you need 4 mounts for TVC because they're going to be in the center. That's number 1. Number 2, you're going to lose gimbaling capabilities between your center engines because now you get 2 more engines in there. Number 3, you then have to route the plumbing for those engines. And number 4 is the thrust puck that you and the aft section you designed capable of withstanding another 600 tons of thrust upward because you just put 2 more Raptor 3s on. It's not like you can just stick it on there and be done with it. It's not that simple even in the slightest.
It feels to me, just doing a bit of a quick math, right? I believe the end goal of, or at least the near-term, mid-term-ish end goal of Starship, I believe Elon wants that to have 10,000 tons of thrust or more, right? And he also said that he wants Raptor to eventually have 300 tons of thrust per engine eventually. So if you do the math, 300 times 33, that gives you 9,900 tons of thrust, which is really, really close to 10,000. So I think they're going to stick with 33 for the time being. But I can see them, if they see that Raptor cannot get 300, that maybe it sticks to like 280 or something like that. Then 280 times 35, you also get very close to 10,000 tons of thrust. It seems like they want to get to that very round number to get the thrust up and be able to launch, the heavier stretch versions of Starship up in the air. We'll see what happens, but it seems like that's going to be the deciding factor, I think, in whether they go with eventually 35 or not.
Yeah. 9,900 seems close on paper to 10,000, but mind you, we're talking about an additional 100 tons of thrust. And 1 ton of thrust in itself is a pretty big challenge for an engine, and let alone 100. And a Merlin, exactly. Yeah, so, wow. Booster 14 finally, it looks like, back up to full speed on the SPMTs after they were having various temper tantrums by the production site. Rolling by our highway site right now.
I was thinking they can always add a Falcon 1 to the side because it has, that extra Merlin, 100 tons of thrust. Let's see the SPMT.
I mean, they could just throw on Falcon 9 sidecores on the side, I guess. Maybe. Super duper heavy kind of, or mini heavy, whatever you want to call it. It's not quite like putting 2 additional super heavy boosters on the side, but you know what? It's something. It's still more thrust. Listening to those SPMTs roll by. That is a big girl. It cannot be understated just how big super heavy boosters are, even in their current configuration, and they are going to get bigger. Brian's saying there's a smiley face on the common dome section between the methane tank and the LOX tank.
It's above the common dome. Actually, it's near the methane FTS. I think it's somewhere up there. Yep, there it is.
Where?
You can see it.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Wow, that's funny.
One worker had a really fun day doing that.
I guess. I hope that person doesn't get yelled at. But that is kind of funny. Although I'm not sure.
Done reuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like how they had
Instead of clean
the stack me heart on the orbital launch mount for Pad B, and before that the tower sections for Pad B itself too. All right, so we are currently at T-minus 42 minutes to the launch of the Starlink 6-83 mission from the Kennedy Space Center here in Florida. Kevin, I think it's about time to go through the timeline coming up. Alex, what can we expect in the coming minutes before we get into prop load for Falcon 9? We are getting pretty close into either SpaceX going tonight or opting to delay farther.
Yeah, right now, if everything is on track, they should be, at that launch control center, going through the final few checks before propellant load starts. Hey, I saw that, Kevin. Yeah, the timeline. Anyways, and so, they do this go no go poll. It's an electronic poll around T-minus 38 minutes. That's when all of the launch controllers have already given their go or no, and then the launch director verifies that everything is go for propellant load. If something is not go, then they will have to try again later into the window at another T0. There's many available T0s because it's a 4-hour window. So, but hopefully that is not the case again. 41 minutes, hopefully to that. How will we know if we are actually going? Well, unfortunately, we don't have any mission control audio. There was a thing of the past, but nowadays we don't have that. And so what we do is we just watch, right, as we do. So we either watch X, right, because sometimes SpaceX, every now and then, they like to tweet about this. And so they say, oh, we go from blah, 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 blah. Other times, though, we have to wait until we see enough frost on the booster that it starts to, show and everything, and we see that liquid oxygen frost on the booster, on that booster liquid oxygen tank at the T-minus 32 minute, 31 minute mark. Again, that propellant load sequence will start hopefully in 5 minutes if everything is go. It's an automated launch countdown sequence, so it always happens around the same time. T-minus 32 minutes, even by 30 minutes, you should already see some frost, unless you're at Vandenberg. If you're at Vandenberg, I'm sorry for you, because then the fog will probably not. But anyway,
I had to mention it at least once.
Andy Sandy, as Jack would say. But yeah, that's essentially what we do nowadays. Just wait a little bit, see if there's frost. If there's no frost, then you start saying, well, it might delay. We've seen that recently. There was like a month ago or so, we had a launch where that happened, and then it just, it was a scrub. But hopefully that will not be the case again. We have to stress this. We really want this launch to happen in 39 minutes.
Yeah, but thankfully, given the weather conditions here in Florida and also the fact that 1067 is a very dark and very sooty booster, any bit of frost should contrast very nicely against its dark surface, and we should be able to very easily tell if prop load is underway for Falcon 9. Once they begin prop load, they are then committed to that targeted T0, and then they do not have the resources either in the vehicle or in the ground systems to recycle everything for another attempt in a few hours, or at least before the end of the window. So we should know here in just a few minutes whether or not they are going to continue targeting the 1:02 a.m. T0 here in Florida. But the go should be given, hopefully, in just about 30 seconds, although we will have no audio cue as to when that might be. But in the meantime, actually, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to point out that there's no vents now from the Stromberg. It's probably now that line that goes up to the Stromberg is already chilled down. Once they go into propellant load sequence, and we get to that T-minus 20 minute vent, that is when they chill down the little bit extra, that goes out to the second stage. Meanwhile, they're doing much more here at Starbase. You can see we switch now to the Starbase view. There's clouds, there's things going on at the Starbase tank farm. I'm sure Ryan knows more about that. I'm not sure if you're there. He's here. Hi,
Yeah,
Ryan.
Hi. That is them running the new exhaust fan that they have. So just to kind of give a primer on this, what SpaceX currently does when they go to prime their pumps on the Pad A side, they route that liquid nitrogen or oxygen or whatever, they route that off basically into the grass, affectionately known as the grass vent, when you see the fluids bunker venting. And then with the subcoolers, especially with the LOX ones, you see it get dumped overboard into the wetlands, is basically what you see. So, like, it creates a big cloud and everything like that. What they are doing with Pad B is they are taking all of that exhaust, putting it into a box, which then has a pair of fans on each side, which just pulls air in, and then it just shoots it into a column in the air and dilutes it. So basically it takes air and dilutes the gaseous and nitrogen or oxygen or whatever. Mostly it's basically nitrogen is what it is. It just kind of disperses it as much as possible. It's going to be kind of nuts to see that thing at full bore with full prop load. But they've been doing a lot of tests with it here and there. I'm kind of surprised they're doing that considering they got to roll a booster by it, but yeah.
I think they're just.
Go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say it looks like they're just having some fun there before booster 14 goes there, because is it gonna go through that cloud as it approaches the launch site, or is it on the other side of the launch entrance?
It's that fan and those pumps are right next to the entrance.
Hey.
Yeah.
Dramatic scene as the booster approaches the launch pad.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, while we have the booster in frame, I want to hit a question here from Logan. Do we know if FTS has been installed yet, either on the ship or the booster, I presume?
FTS should be installed on the booster. We've seen the placard on Mega Bay 1. So this booster should have its FTS. It'll put it on the mount, and it'll just wait for its significant other, Ship 35, to be stacked. I-35 might have its FTS installed. We don't really know. It's always hard to tell sometimes. You usually see the placard on Mega Bay 2 doors, but with all the fencing in the way because of all the destruction of the Star Factory wedge and High Bay, it's kind of hard. It blocks the views of that stuff. So it's possible it has it, or they're going to install it when it rolls back real quick. So I think it already has it, because you can inhibit that from going by just having a plug on the QD. So it has literally a ground inhibitor on it.
And so when it comes to Ship 35, would they also install that inside the Mega Bay, or would they wait to do that until it gets to the launch site?
They can install it inside the bay now, rather than having to do lifts outside. So basically the vehicles roll with the flight termination system installed.
There you have it. I want to hit this question really quick. This one is Falcon related, so if we can bring up Falcon 9 back up on the right-hand side of the screen at least. Kevin, I had this one up earlier and I hadn't realized about, but I want to answer it right now because it is pretty interesting. From Do You Like Jazz, asking, how often does Falcon 9 have a T0 abort? D, we haven't seen that many. The first one that comes to mind, the most recent one we had, I think, I'm not sure you were here for that one. You may have been traveling. But it was the first launch attempt of the Astronis from One to Many mission with booster B1077, where they got to T0. They ignited most of the engines, but apparently one of the combustion chamber pressures wasn't up to what SpaceX would have liked, which led to a T0 abort. It does happen. We have seen it happen before, but it is a rarity that we see it. Oop, klaxon in the background there from Starbase. Probably for a booster incoming. But D, besides Astronis, have we seen any other T0 aborts from Falcon 9?
It's been a good long while. I remember one specifically, it might have been the Astronis mission. I can't remember specifically, but it was from Slick 40, and we had that ignition, and then we had shut down, and then it was a while wait until we actually saw that booster actually fly. But, I mean, they happen occasionally. I think I've seen, maybe 3 or 4 total, if I'm remembering correctly. But so it happens, and it's a good opportunity. Like, they see something that is going wrong, and they're not committed to having to launch. Like, so it's great that they can address that and it doesn't lead to anything larger. But thankfully, those are very rare to see, and I seem to see some.
Do we see some
frost on
frost?
the
Yes,
booster
we
here.
do. We
Yeah.
got some vapor on the bottom of the liquid oxygen tank of Falcon 9's first stage, which means SpaceX is now committed to that 1:02 a.m. at T0 here in Florida. But we are in propellant low, which means they are going to go for it. So it's a great sign, and we are progressing towards launch now, just over 31 minutes to T0 and counting. All right. So, Alex, where are we in the countdown now, and what can we expect up until about the T-minus maybe 10-minute mark or around there?
Yeah, so that frost confirms we are well into propellant load here. It started at T-minus 35 minutes as usual. That begins with liquid oxygen being loaded on the first stage, and then also RP1 kerosene, the fuel of Falcon 9, being loaded on both stages. Now, the second stage, though, it's smaller. You can see there, it's that little white cylinder on top of the black interstage, right? And so it's smaller, and therefore it takes very little time to get full. So that RP1 load will wrap up in about 10 minutes from now. At the same time, they're going to be preparing for that liquid oxygen load, which will be around the T-minus 16-minute mark. Again, it also takes very little time because it's a smaller tank, and so they load it a little bit closer to liftoff to keep it as cold as possible. Again, intensified propellants. So T-minus 20 minute, we're going to see that T-minus 20 minute vent. Remember, at LC39A, unlike at Slick 40 or Slick 40, there the T-minus 20 minute vent is 20 minutes in 20 seconds, whereas at LC39A, it's sort of closer to T-minus 20 minutes and 30 seconds. It's a little bit earlier, a few seconds earlier in the countdown. So we'll see that, hopefully. Then again, that stage 2 liquid oxygen load will begin around T-minus 60-minute mark. Then we'll start seeing that frost on the second stage, hopefully going into the final stages of propellant load. At that T-minus 6-minute mark, RP1 load will wrap up on the first stage. We're going to have as well the strong back retracting, engine chill on both stages as well. We're going to have as well the final few portions of the countdown with the liquid oxygen load being completed at T-minus 3 minutes, T-minus 2 minutes for the second stage startup. You can see there already all of those events on that countdown timeline, but we'll get there when we get there. Those are the next few steps in for the moment in the timeline. Chill down of the liquid oxygen line, and then liquid oxygen load on the second stage, plus RP1 load being wrapped up on the second stage.
Yeah, we saw that last time with the last Starlink mission out of Pad A, and the vent did occur at T-minus 20 minutes, 20 seconds, and I had just finished explaining that I thought it was 20 minutes and 30 seconds like you had just explained, but in reality what had just happened was the T0 had shifted right by about 10 seconds, and we didn't realize it until the very end, and our clock hit T0, and Falcon wasn't moving. So it was a bit alarming, but that can happen. So. But yes, that is correct. And we are hopefully coming up on that in just about 8.5 minutes time. In the meantime, Booster 14 continues to march on from the production site over to the launch site in Starbase, Texas, in preparations for Flight 9, Starship Flight 9. Hopefully this is its last rollout to the launch site, and we are presuming it is flight ready, and we are just waiting on Ship 35 to get rolled back to the production site for its last checkouts before it rolls out, hopefully within the next couple of days.
I had an idea.
What's your idea?
Should we have a poll for what's going to be first, Falcon 9 launch or Booster 14 entering the launch site? We're 28 minutes away.
I think we should.
Kevin, can we have that?
I can't do a poll right now, but maybe chat can tell us whether they want to watch Falcon 9 or Booster. I can't track both at the same time. That's impossible. I'm already trying.
You remember when there was the Ship 35 static fire and the Falcon 9? And the Falcon 9 launch happened, it landed, and within a minute of the landing, they static fired Ship 35. That was amazing.
Well,
that was such timing.
That was the single engine fire, wasn't it? Or was that the first attempt at 6?
I feel it was the first attempt at 6. Yeah.
Okay, I think you're right. It was
I'll have
everything
to go
blends
back,
together now.
but yeah.
Everything happens just so often. Everything just blends together.
Yeah. You bet.
Yikes! You bet. Concur. We need more of these, and more of these being Starship launches and Falcon 9 launches, which we are hopefully getting close to just over 27 minutes from the launch of Starlink 6-83.
All right, I've gotten a poll going. The poll's going. We're good.
Okay, fantastic.
Booster 2, bat!
Yeah, sorry, I was typing fast.
You always type fast.
True.
Kevin does type fast, and you can often we often hear it in the meetings too. Kevin has very heavy fingers.
Sounds like a. Trying to think what it sounds like going off, but anyways.
You what now? Your what hurts?
Huh?
Huh? What? Anyway.
What?
Ooh, okay. So why this is actually a really good question that we should probably address before the booster gets to the launch site, to give everyone an idea of how the Flight 9 campaign will progress. Space Lover asking, since Booster 14 is a reused booster, is there a chance of a wet dress before flight? In previous flights, we have seen, like especially in the last 2 or 3 flights, we have seen like partial wet dresses or like just like little prop loads to make sure the tanks and seals are good. But Ryan or Alex, do we expect a full wet dress for this one or no?
It's a maybe. They did a full wet dress rehearsal for Flight 7. I guess that technically they did do a wet dress for Flight 8 because they had the aborted launch attempt, which turned into launch attempt that turned into a wet dress. So I don't know. Yeah, you could call that a wet dress at that point. But they could do one. They could just do a tanking test like they did back on Flight 6. Or they could do nothing. It's really what SpaceX thinks they want to test, if they want to test anything. I personally, since they're getting the vehicles out this early before launch, like at least 9 to 10 days before, tells me they want to do some kind of tanking test or a wet dress, if anything. So I think they'll do something. I don't know what it'll be though.
You think they'll do something, huh?
They'll do something. Yeah.
I mean,
I know, very
there's also
descriptive. They'll do something.
there's also the fact that this is not the Starship program of like, Flight 1 or Flight 2, where they had the wet dress months before, right? The launch. We saw even, I think it was for Flight 5, it was like the week before or something like that. It can still happen. And as you mentioned, Ryan, Flight 8, we had the first attempt, I think it was March 3rd, right? And the actual attempt that actually flew, that was March 6th. So they could do it within 3 days. And there will be plenty of time to refill the tank farm. In fact, the tank farm now, we know thanks to SpaceX, Deng Hewitt, he commented that now they have enough to be able to attempt a 24-hour recycle, which was something that they were not able to do back in the day, where if they scrubbed, they had to wait like 48 hours to be able to refill enough of the propellant tank farm. So in theory, they could do the wet dress rehearsal a lot closer to launch if they wanted to do one. They are not like they were back in the day that they had to do one well before the launch, like a month or a couple of weeks before the launch in order to get things right. Hopefully we'll see what they do. Hey, more testing, more better. I always say that. It's actually Jack, but I steal that from him.
I mean, it does make sense though, because Booster 14 is the first piece of modern Starship hardware to be reflown following any previous mission. So I think any sort of either wet dress or any kind of tanking test is valid for Booster 14 to ensure it has the best chances of success and not succumbing to a silly failure or having an abort for a reason that could have been avoided during a wet dress or some sort of tanking test. But considering what's at risk for Flight 9, I think it makes sense to be as cautious as possible while still wanting to launch quickly and just get it off the ground. So we'll have to wait and see.
And if they move the launch a couple of days, I don't think anybody will be complaining if that ends up being a successful flight, right? Like, if they need a couple more days, if they need a little bit more time to test whatever they want, hey, all for it, right? Like, if that ensures that the flight goes all according to plan, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we certainly do not want a repeat of both Flight 7 and Flight 8, especially for ship. But in the meantime, on your screen, what you are looking at is a record-breaking Falcon 9, and record-breaking because the first stage booster is B1067, and this will be its 28th flight tonight, a record in the Falcon 9 fleet and for SpaceX as a whole. Talking about flight-proven hardware, this is booster 1067 is the golden child, or at least the ideal example of what reused hardware can do for you. This is 28 flights. It's not that far off from what the orbiters back in the space shuttle program used to do. So, but we are coming up actually on a pretty significant milestone in the countdown in about just over a minute. Hopefully, if all goes well, and we will get to that when we see it. But Falcon 9 looking very frosty, at least over on 39A, because I think you can almost drink the air here in Florida right now. It was raining all day. It's probably upwards of over 90% humidity, if not closer to 100. Everything has moisture on it. Everything's getting water on it. So, but that means that the venting from any cryogenic fluids from any super cold tanks are obviously a lot more visible. But also, with the air being a lot more dense here in Florida, it is going to carry the sound from all 9 Merlins a lot better. So it is going to be a very loud one tonight, assuming it gets off the ground. So, but in the meantime, while that's also happening, Booster 14, which is the Super Heavy booster slated for Flight 9, is currently making, hopefully, its last roll to the launch site in Starbase, Texas. We currently have a poll going up in chat as to what will happen first. Booster 14 arriving at the launch site, or Starlink 6-83 getting off the ground. But
There it is.
there she blows. Alex, what are we looking at?
That's the T-minus 20-minute vent. And that kickstarts the chill down of the line that goes to the second stage. That quick disconnect umbilical there on the second stage ahead of the liquid oxygen load. So right now the RP1 should already be loaded onto the second stage, and we are now on that LUX chill down part of the timeline there. At the T-minus 16-minute mark, we're going to have stage 2 LUX load. So that will be when that vent disappears. That vent disappears, and that means we're having that liquid oxygen going through the line and into the second stage. Because right now, what they're doing is they're flowing that liquid oxygen through, but the valves to the second stage, those are closed off. So it needs to go somewhere, right? So that venting that you see there, that's gaseous oxygen from that oxygen that is being flowed through that line. At some point, though, it's going to be reversed. So that vent will shut down, and they're going to be opening the valves to the second stage so that they can start that liquid oxygen load. It's very similar to what we see at Starbase with the OLM vent, the tower vent. When those shut off, then that's an indication that they're loading liquid oxygen onto Starship. See the parallelisms here with the 2 rockets, right?
And that is quite the cape of vapor that it is wearing at the moment, y'all. It is.
Yeah, it's at the Cape.
Okay, Alex. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a very humid night here in Florida, and which makes any bit of venting or frost or vapor coming off of Falcon 9 all that much more visible, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. But Ryan, Alex, I don't want to jinx anything, but it looks like the SPMTs have been behaving themselves for the last 20 minutes or so, moving Booster 14 to the launch site compared to the first half hour.
Is that one breaking down?
Oh, stop it. No, stop it. Stop it. Well, actually, Ryan, remember how they had one axle up on each side? It appears those are both down now, unless I'm crazy.
Interesting.
It appears they have all axles back on the ground. I think before they had one on each side to lift it up for whatever reason, but if that was any cause of issue, they seem to have resolved it. But in the meantime, what do you guys think is going to happen first? Booster gets to the launch site, or Falcon 9 getting off the ground? Feel free to let us know in the comments. We are always looking. And there should be a poll still up as well, so I'll go vote in that. In the meantime, I'm going to hit some support really quickly. Ooh, okay, if there was ever a question that was perfected for Ryan, I'm going to pose that to him from Chris Ray with a $5 super chat. If I can pull it up here. Oh, no. There we go. Do we know how SpaceX plans to handle the proper requirements of rapid reusability? Wouldn't that require a colossal tank farm or farms? Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, Chris Ray. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah. One of the things that they look to be plan on doing with Pad B is, as of right now, they have to truck all their water in for the water deluge system for Pad A. The plan for Pad B seems to be to hook it in through a pipeline. So they can just flow water into the tanks and keep them going rather than having to bring trucks in. Now, trying to do pipelines for cryogenic fluids is, let's just say, it's a little bit harder to do, especially for the amount of cryogenic liquids they got to do. I've always been curious about how they're gonna want to do, like, say they want to launch two launches in a single day. Okay, that is at least around 12,000 metric tons of propellant they're gonna need in a single day. 12,000 metric tons, and that's just liquid oxygen and methane. That doesn't include the nitrogen to subcool it all or to chill down lines. It's the logistics in order to reuse this thing in terms of commodities is ridiculous to think about. Like, I've always wondered how they would build it up, because all the tanks you see at Pad A, at the launch site at Boca, is not even enough for 2 launches. It's not. It's like 1.5. So, yeah. They need more room, and they need to. And if they want more capacity for square footage, they got to go back to vertical tanks or spheres, because horizontals are not great for square footage for how much, for capacity. They're just not.
Well, luckily, they are not short of a land there in Starbase, Texas. But, however, the question remains of how much of it or how much more of it they can use. I guess time will tell. Starbase is its own city now, so the future is what they make of it, I guess.
They still have to.
Go ahead.
If they have to get approval from the Army Corps of Engineers to use any of the wetlands area, because they then have to supposedly recreate that wetlands area in another location. Yep. That's that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Well, time will tell if they actually end up doing that. But also, before SPMTs just stopped, went very quiet. It would be very on brand for the role tonight.
Or we changed the audio source?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, whatever.
Potentially. Anyway, some well wishes here from B1062, a booster that we lost at sea, unfortunately. Godspeed 1067 ad astra per astra. Absolutely, with a $5 super chat, 100% we wish 1067 the best, and hopefully it can make all of us proud here in just under now 14 minutes from liftoff. Okay. Ooh, this is a really good question here about Falcon, and this is unique to Falcon at the moment, or at least it was one of the more unique features when it first came out. Daniel Nairn asking, does SpaceX remove the flight termination system from Falcon 9 when they recover the booster, or do they just mechanically de-arm the FTS? So Falcon 9 is armed what is called AFTS, or Automatic Flight Termination System. So that no longer requires somebody sitting on console with their finger on the red button if Falcon 9 is doing something that they don't want it to do or something it isn't supposed to do. The vehicle will detect that itself and then deem whether or not it is able to continue in flight, or if they have to abort the flight immediately and self-destruct. We hear call-outs actually in flight after stage separation, almost toward booster landing, where we hear booster AFTS is safed. So it arms and safes itself automatically. Whether or not they remove it from the booster when they are handling it back at Jiffy Lube or Hangar X, as it's otherwise called, I don't actually know. It would make the most sense for reuse if they are able to just leave it in place and inspect it in place rather than having to go through the hassle of removing it and then reinstalling it. But I'm honestly not sure. Alex, do you have any insight as to if they have to remove it or not?
I'm gonna be frank. I have no idea. We don't have that much closeness as we have, for example, to the Starship operations when it
Yep.
comes from Falcon 9 operations. We do see the boosters come on the drone ships, right? But what happens out there at sea in between the landing and approaching the port, it's like what, 2 days, right? So we don't know what happens in those 2 days. Could be something like that. Could be something else. Also, when they land back at land, it's also out there in a remote zone, be it at Vandenberg or at LC1 and 2 at the Cape, right? And so it's also very hard to see what they're doing, what kind of operations. We are very spoiled by Starship, right? Like we are
Yes,
so
we are.
close to all of these operations that we see some of the things that, for Falcon 9, we have no idea about certain things that we do for Starship, and there's a good chance that Falcon 9 just operates differently. My bet is that everything is just there's as you said, that electronically sort of activated version of the FTS. Like you can remotely save the FTS by saying to the controller, the controller computer saying to it, don't activate, please. Just save yourself. Don't have any triggering or anything. Then there's always physical devices like pins and everything that are usually used to precisely physically inhibit these systems. But unfortunately, we have no idea if they do that sort of thing, for example, at the drone ships or back at the landing zones. That's one of the mysteries of the Falcon 9.
Yeah, I wish we had more insight as to how SpaceX processes the Falcon 9s after flight. Unfortunately, we do not. The access that we have here at the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station is heavily limited, especially compared to the access that we are so lucky to have at Starbase. So, but every bit of Starbase activity is going to come here to Florida, and it'll be coming here before we know it. Hopefully, by the end of this year, SpaceX hopes. But we are, I guess, having to wait and see whether or not they're able to make that a reality. But they are coming here sooner rather than later. Just crossing under now the T-minus 10-minute mark, y'all, launch is getting really, really, really close. And time always melts away so quickly after the T-minus 20-minute mark. Ooh, the results from the poll are in. Poll complete. Which happens first? For those of you who are not familiar, we had a poll up in chat asking the audience which would happen first based on what we were seeing between Booster going to the pad, Booster 14 in Starbase, or Falcon 9 lifting off tonight. And everyone was saying Falcon 9, or at least 63% of the audience is saying that Falcon 9 will launch before Booster 14 gets to the launch site. So, I mean, considering we are getting really close now, and Booster 14 still has a little bit to go before it gets to where it needs to, I would say that sounds more believable. So, but yeah, Falcon 9's launch is getting closer, just now over 9 minutes from liftoff. Ooh, really good question here from Aiden about going back to Starship. If Flight 9 is successful, will they attempt a ship catch on the next flight like their original plan? For those of you who aren't familiar, the original plan was to, I think, catch the ship on Flight 8 if Flight 7 was successful. Then it was Flight 9 if Flight 8 was successful. And obviously we know the fates that both Ship 33 and Ship 34 had on Flight 7 and 8. Ryan or Alex, I will toss that one to you. Or either of you. Or both of you, whichever you want to do.
Their plan might be that. But this is me. If I were the FAA, I would not allow them to do a re-entry over land until they've got back-to-back successes, especially after these two failures. I would not allow them to. I would make them do it on like flight 11 or 12. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you had a success, but you also had back-to-back failures, which spread a Starship over the Caribbean, Turks and Caicos, and the Atlantic Ocean. I think they should do back-to-back successful flights and then try, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean that's actually very, very valid, Ryan. Because if Ship 35 does manage to make it to Seco, its mission is not over. They will have to load the dummy Starlink payloads in and deploy those on top of other in-flight milestones that they want to hit, like an in-flight relight, and I'm sure other testing that they have on board with systems. So just because they make it to SECO doesn't make the mission an automatic success, even though it may seem that way compared to how the last 2 flights went. But there are objectives that SpaceX wants to complete after SECO, and depending on how those go, we will have to wait to see what the future does. Alex, what do you think? Are you feeling optimistic or pessimistic about ship catch on the next flight, assuming this one goes well?
I mean, yeah, I want to see a ship catch as soon as logically possible, right? And if they find out that hey, like it could be that they fly Flight 9, it goes well, but they look at the data and they go, you know what? Let's do another splashdown, just for good measure, right? Like that could be a thing as well. That SpaceX themselves, they are like, okay, let's do another splashdown, but they have also kept their possibilities open that maybe they could do a catch on Flight 10, right? Like we've seen some of these paperwork going around that might allow them to do that. We'll see. I do hope that they are able to do it as quickly as possible. If that's Flight 10, good. If that's Flight 11, equally good.
I'm not sure we could blame them if they opted to take a bit more time, regardless of how Flight 9 went, to ensure that ship is able to safely come back. Because like Ryan was saying, ship is going to have to overfly land to come back to the launch site, and that is not something ship has done yet. And they want to make sure that if it does, that ship is fully able to control itself and fly itself into an area that it will not harm anybody or any property should something go wrong. But, y'all, and go ahead, Ryan, actually, go ahead.
Remember, they have never re-entered with a Block 2 before.
Yep.
Granted, there's a lot of similarities with 30's heat shield, because especially the way they did the ablative. The flaps are different, and there is other differences around there. So you want to verify that works before re-entering over land. And I think you need at least 2 solid points of data before you make that call. So, yeah.
Just under T-minus 5 minutes from the launch of Starlink 6-83 here at the Kennedy Space Center. Well, we are joint streaming the roll of Booster 14.2 or Dash 2, whatever you want to call it, from the production site to the launch site in preparations for Flight 9. Lots happening in the spaceflight world, seemingly all on a Monday. It has been a very busy couple days for us at NSF, but these are certainly the best kind of problems you could ever have, honestly. Ryan, Alex, D, I'm not sure if you're on comms or not, but there are certainly worse problems to have.
Has started.
Oh, we have audio. Fantastic.
What if Booster Booster might win this one? Booster 14 might win
it's
this.
It's really close to the entrance.
Or I mean, because it's got to make that turn. Maybe if it slows down enough and makes that turn, it happens like right at the same time.
Do we call it when it's like fully into the launch site, or when it is about to enter? Like how do we call it?
I mean,
Booster 14 is already.
We didn't really specify what would classify as finished, whether it's hard down at where it's going to be picked up or just crossing the gate into the launch site. I don't know, but it's very on brand to have a Falcon 9 launch and then additional Starship activity happening at the same time. Very on brand for SpaceX, and we have seen that more than once here in the past few weeks.
Gotta get used to it.
Gotta get used to it. Spaceflight is only getting crazier.
One day, it will not just be, a Starship moving and a Falcon 9 launch. Maybe it will be a Starship launching and a Falcon 9 launching. We've seen that recently in some of the Starship flights where we have had a Falcon 9 launch happening within a few hours, right? And so, but hopefully within 3 minutes, we'll have this one. We're going to hear some of those call-outs as we count down to T0.
Should be hearing.
Seems to be fully retracted now.
And for those who aren't familiar with Strongback, what was that one? Did you guys hear?
That's the POGO accumulator on the Falcon 9.
POGO.
Stage 1 launch load complete.
There we go. Call out
Nice.
for stage 1 LOX load has wrapped up. We should be hearing about stage 1 RP1 here following that, and stage 2 LOX as well. Transport erector has retracted by about 1.5 or 2 degrees to put itself in position to, well, throw back at T0 to get out of the way of the exhaust of 9 Merlin 1D engines, which should be about chilled down and down to flight temperatures at the current time. Man, Falcon 9 is awfully venty right now, isn't it? Or awfully frosty. It is really humid in Florida tonight, folks. You could almost drink the air. I'm not even joking.
Well, Booster 14 just
Yeah.
stopped moving as a whole, so I think Falcon 9 is going to win this one.
Don't
See
call it
people
too soon,
mentioning
Ryan.
The pogo, yeah. That
Ryan.
call out is
Stage
because
2
they have
LOX
this.
load complete.
There we go.
Okay,
Stage
that's
2.
stage 2 now fully loaded. They have this sort of mechanism to avoid the pogo oscillations on Falcon 9, and so they test it ahead of launch, of course, because it needs to work. So, and we are now 95 seconds away, so of course.
And now 90 seconds. We can see that vent coming from the transporter erector, signifying that they are finished up loading LOX on Falcon 9's upper stage.
Ground gas closeouts.
Ground gas closeouts, all trending in the right direction. Ooh, we have some pad audio. Sounds like it. Man, Falcon 9, there is a lot of vapor coming off of Falcon 9. It's practically wearing a cape. Right, just over 1 minute now from launch, we should hear from the launch director that Falcon 9 is in startup, which means Falcon 9 is on internal power in just a few seconds.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Good call out. Following that, we should, in just a few more seconds, we should hear that the launch director will verify that all systems are go for launch. Just over 40 seconds from T0.
Launch director, go for launch.
Here we have it. Just over 30 seconds until the liftoff of Falcon 9 and Starlink 6-83.
Hey, we can hear you on the camera.
You mean on the what? Oh, you can.
Yep. Okay, here we go. 10 seconds to go. Watch out for the engines igniting. 5 seconds. There's engine ignition. And liftoff. 28th flight for B-1067. Go Falcon 9, go Starlink.
XQ. Back engine chill.
And look at it go. T plus 2 minutes into flight. Falcon 9 doing well on its flight. That booster B-1067 on its 20th flight. Record flight for a Falcon 9 booster. We're approaching now MECO. Main engine cut off. Those 9 Merlin engines on the first stage will shut down. The 2 stages will separate. And we'll hopefully have as well MVAC ignition. Stay tuned for
We
that.
have
in just a
Miko
few
here with the
seconds.
eyeballs.
Oh, there we
Stream
go.
of-
Hi, Max.
Hello, I'm back.
Let's stand by for MVAC ignition.
And we have MVAC ignition with
engine
the
cut off.
eyeballs.
And now with the SpaceX feed.
Stage separation
Few-
confirmed.
Good stage step.
MVAC ignition.
Onboard views from Falcon 9 never get old. You can before MVAC ignition, you can see the lights on Florida's east coast there in the background, all lit up.
Should be coming up also on fairing separation.
They're the fairings
we saw
on
that,
D's
yeah,
camera. Yep,
from
should be
the
hearing it
ground
on the stream
views.
in a few seconds.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There we have it. You can see the fairings in the feed. Look at that.
Yeah, the little dots. That was so cool.
You can always track MVAC's exhaust for a little bit. You can still track them. Look at that. It's so distracting. I want to talk about the MVAC, but you can see the fairings glistening away. Well, at least at this point in flight and for the next couple of minutes, you should be able to see the MVAC's exhaust decently well, as the exhaust expansion still has a bit of glow and color to it. That will change for us as it heads farther down range and, of course, gains altitude. Great callers there. Vehicles on nominal trajectories. So as Falcon 9's upper stage begins to climb away and go farther down range, it will become more like just a dim star in the background. But oh my God! Oh!
Whoa!
It's flying over storms right now. You see the lightning?
That's
Wow.
cool. That's
Whoa!
See, this is why sometimes when there's like a storm way off down range,
Yep.
people are like, oh, that can affect. No, because the booster is flying, it's in space right now. It's 114 kilometers above all of that. But you don't want the booster to go through all of that. But look at that. Wow.
It's literally flying directly over it, as it's like the old it's like the SR-71 or Concorde, where it's flying high enough to where weather is no concern at their altitudes, although Falcon 9 taking that to obviously a different level.
I don't know if Chris is awake or anything like that, but I'm gonna comment that this is what you can avoid by doing point to point. You don't have to fly through all of those storms.
You don't have to fly it through. You can also fly around it. There's this thing.
Yeah, but then you take
but
longer.
who wants to do that, Ryan? That just sounds
take
boring.
longer on an airplane. Oh yeah, we have the airplane guy here. Come on.
True. At this point, Falcon 9's first stage has reached apogee and is decreasing in altitude before it re-enters Earth's atmosphere. Its velocity is still increasing as it is above the atmosphere, and gravity is just pulling it down, now below 100 kilometers altitude. You can still... They must have done some kind of onboard camera upgrade. I don't recall being able to see. Well, I mean, granted, we are also under a full moon. That also helps, especially with cloud cover. Yeah,
because you can see the limb of the Earth as well. There, you can see the contrast between where the Earth is, and where it's just space. So I'm thinking it's that.
Speaking of camera upgrades for things in space, if 35 does make it past ECO, they have a bunch more cameras and higher def cameras on Starship now.
They do.
So
that's gonna be awesome.
Rapidly approaching the entry burn of Falcon 9's first stage. Right on cue.
Here we go.
One engine.
One. Exactly.
They will light 3, and there's 2 and 3. This is to decrease Falcon 9's velocity as it begins to enter Earth's atmosphere, as to not be overloaded by thermal stress or thermal or aerodynamic stresses. All right, so still on 3 engines. Oh. Oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's just stream issues. Single engine, and now shutdown.
See, Booster 14 is cooler than this because it doesn't need a re-entry burn.
Yeah, but it's not going as quick, is it, Ryan?
Still doesn't need one. It's cooler than that.
That actually is a pretty good point of comparison between Falcon 9 and Super Heavy. And there we go. There's the FTS safe call-out that we talked about before on stage 2, though. We should be seeing some plasma around the grid fins here soon, unless that's already happened. But at this point, velocity beginning to plummet on Falcon 9's first stage as it re-enters the thicker parts of the atmosphere, and aerodynamic drag is beginning to slow it down rather rapidly now. Holy cow. And is that the drone ship through the clouds there? The light off the left-hand side of the screen?
That might be it.
Stage 1 transonic.
Sometimes we also see a second light, which could be the support ship.
Yep.
The tug and everything, which usually stays like a couple of miles away, of course, at a safe distance. But, it was like, 8 kilometers up, that booster?
Yep.
You can probably see quite a lot of space out there in the ocean coming up.
Just read the instructions, looking marvelous down below.
There
Here
we go.
Stage 1 landing burn startup. Grid fins working in tandem with that single. With that single Merlin 1D to help orient it properly for a good touchdown. Onboard views from Just Read the Instructions on the right.
With a deluge.
With the deluge. Landing leg deploy. Looks like we have a good touchdown. Awfully smoky there.
Yeah, all of the vapor from the...
But there we go. A good view of B-1067 after its 28th flight and 28th successful landing. A record breaker, certainly. And the current Falcon 9 fleet leader continuing to extend its lead against rivaling boosters.
Going for the 29th flight soon, I guess, because this one, the 27th flight was 29 days ago. So maybe next month we'll... There we go, MVAC shutdown. Maybe next month we're going to have the 29th, and a little bit later after that we're going to have the 30th, hopefully.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Is the SPMT stuck in mud again?
No way.
Or treading mud again? Oh, yeah, by the way, Booster 14 is also rolling out to the launch site tonight in Starbase, Texas. This has been joint coverage of both Starlink 6-83 and Booster 14's roll. Looks like they're having similar mud problems to what they had when they rolled out the orbital launch mount for Pad B just a few days ago.
See, if I could say that it's digging its own grave, but
oh,
it's
no.
not.
Alex, don't say that.
Hey, it got out. It got out. It left a little hole there, but it got out.
It's also the very back of the SPMT, so whatever problems they had, I'm sure they were obviously able to mitigate it and overcome. But it is now at the launch site entrance. But that then answers the question. Starlink was able to launch before Booster 14 made it to the launch site tonight.
Yeah, because 14 got around that corner there, and then they realized there was some of the fencing that they use for construction site areas. The fencing was in the way, so they had to bring a telehandler over and move the fencing out of the way, and then it could move again. So someone forgot to move the fencing, and that's why 14 lost.
I blame Ryan.
Plus the SPMTs broke down, so there's that too.
I blame Ryan for that as well.
Copy.
Copy. But in the meantime, folks, on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see LC-39A, the transporter erector, venting profusely. That is normal. That is a normal thing that we see following launches from there. And also, in the meantime, we are also working on some replays of launch to play back for all y'all while we are watching Booster 14. I guess we could say re-enter the launch site because it has been there before, hasn't it? Alex, Ryan,
Yeah,
nobody?
yeah.
Nobody?
Well, it's been to the launch site a few times. Yeah.
Well, for flight operations. For flight operations, I should have clarified.
I was about to say, yeah. It's the second time for flight operations. That's correct.
Currently, Flight 9 is, from what we can see on notices posted by the Coast Guard, it looks like the current net date for Starship Flight 9 is currently May 21st. The local window being 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Central Time here in the U.S. SPMT is turning all of its wheels. And actually, a really cool thing that we should see here in a moment, because the entrance to the launch site isn't 100% level, we should see every single axle begin to compensate for the varying, I guess, angle that it is entering at, and it will adjust its ride height accordingly to support Booster 14 and keeping it level. Making a slow pan up here, getting one last up-close look at Booster 14. So, Ryan, I think we talked about this earlier, but I think we should mention again for those watching It is now entering the launch site. When can we potentially expect it to get picked up and moved onto the orbital launch mount?
Should be pretty quick. Let me double check the Pad A sticks are up and open and ready to receive the booster.
That's what we like to
So
see.
it'll go right into the sticks. They'll line it up. They'll get it all set together, pick it up, and put it on the launch mount sometime in the next several hours. Usually, I would assume it'd be done sometime by the morning.
So we could see a booster back on the orbital launch mount by sunrise, potentially.
Yep, I wouldn't put it past them. It's midnight right now. Yeah, sunrise is what, like 6, 7 o'clock. So
Something around, yeah, somewhere around there. I'm not quite sure what it is in Central Time, but yeah, it should be around there. Lots of venting and lots of vapor we can see on both sides of the screen. On the right-hand side of your screen is venting coming from the transporter erector at LC-39A following Falcon 9's launch of Starlink 6-83. And on the left, you are seeing some venting from the tank farm over at the launch site in Starbase, Texas. All right, I'm going to hit a question here while we are still waiting on replays. This one's kind of open-ended, but I think we can all answer this one and go around the horn. From James is asking, how many years do you think it will be until Starbase is no longer a never-ending construction site, if ever? Ryan, I want to hear what you have to say first.
oh boy. I'll run it through my head for the launch site itself. It really depends on what their plan is. There's a couple of ways they could go about it at the launch site. They could redo Pad A and make it like Pad B. Extend a tank farm. They could add in the same pump setup. They also, there's a cool theory that I've had or talked to other people about, is they turn Pad A into a catch tower and they build a third tower to the south, and make basically 2 launch pads with a catch tower. So that if that would be the case, then construction would be going on for a long time there. Gigabay is going to take about a year and a half to do. And then after that, they might build another Gigabay or payload processing facility. I don't know. It's gonna be like 5. It's 5 years, several years. I don't know. It's gonna be years and years before they're done with all construction here. There's a lot more they still have to do, or redo, I should say.
Yeah. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I would agree with Ryan that it's gonna be a while. They're gonna be optimizing as well the pad, as we've seen. Up next should be that Pad A remodelation. Once they already go through all of the Block 2 boosters and everything, then and they move on to Block 3, then I can see them doing Pad A, doing upgrades to the tank farm systems, doing upgrades to pretty much everything as they go through the air separation units. There are going to be also, a lot of things going on at Sanchez, and also the production side expanding. We're going to see a lot of improvements, right? Even Falcon 9, we're still seeing a lot of improvements, of additions and new buildings and new hardware, new launch pads. Like right now, I just posted on X recently about the draft environmental assessment for Space Launch Complex 6. That's going to be another Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launch site for that. So if that's still happening with Falcon 9 15 years into the program, just get ready for Starship, because that's going to be even more. It's going to be more launch sites, more landing sites. There's going to be all sorts of things. Of course, if it is successful, which, knock on wood, everything goes well, and it is, because it could be quite an exciting future.
Absolutely. And mind you, also, all of the Starship activity that we are currently seeing in Starbase is coming here to Florida simultaneously, hopefully, if not by the end of this year, hopefully by maybe end of Q1, definitely Q2 of next year. So it's all coming this way as well. So there's going to be no shortage of Starship activity in the next couple of years, we can assure you. All right. So, Saad is asking, besides installing the dumb links and the FTS system, is there any other work that needs to be done on the ship at the production site? Ryan?
other than final checkouts, if they want to still do the exact same tile test, they have to remove a bunch of tiles. Although I don't think they're going to do that. That might take a couple of days to do all that work. I assume they're not even going to try for that this time around. They may try for that on the next ship on 36 or something else like that. But there shouldn't be much left
Backing
to
up.
get it back out. Yeah,
Backing up.
come on, 14, just get in the launch site.
It can't make up its mind yet. Maybe it's getting cold feet. No, nothing.
Hey, Booster 14. I want to get some sleep. So could you just get into the launch site, please?
You can see there the difference in the
Yes.
axles, the height. That's so cool.
Yep, it is actively compensating for, I guess, the ramp that is there, the slight ramp at the entrance to the launch site. That's really cool. SPMTs are wonders of engineering in themselves, and we would love to do a bit on them as well. I know Jack also has this absolute fascination with SPMTs as well. So yeah, they are just absolutely fascinating pieces of technology. But it's backing up now, so they could be trying to align it differently to go beyond the tank farm, or I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you.
There really isn't any issue they should have because they rolled the OLM through here.
Yeah.
And that was a lot wider. Because remember, that booster's supposed to fit inside the launch mount. So
you say that they shouldn't be having an issue, but do you remember the first half hour of the roll where the SPMT stopped like 20,000 times?
That's true, Max. That's true.
I don't want to bring any bad juju up into the stream again, but yeah. The SPMTs have proven to be maybe a little bit temperamental this evening. Oh, there we go. Moving forward.
It. Let's go.
Yep.
Go.
Full speed.
Maybe they forgot something in the way again.
Maybe. I know they were adjusting the angle on the power packs too, so maybe there was something with it. It might have been a full on SPMT issue. I'm not sure. But either way, they're moving in now.
And Carson was saying there was a loader working in front of it, so yeah, they rolled this without realizing there was stuff in the way. So that's why the roll is taking a while. They've had SPMT issues and they've had stuff in the way, so they're not paying attention. It's very well planned. Great success.
Great success, but honestly, these are issues that honestly are not uncommon to run into in a spaceport that is as active and busy as Starbase is 24/7. And you can also see 24/7 progress on Starbase both there and also here on the Space Coast, both with Starbase Live 24/7 and the Space Coast Live 24/7 streams that we have up and running, obviously 24/7 there on YouTube, or here on YouTube, I should say as well. And they stopped again.
Hey, Max.
Kevin?
You were saying that it's fascinating what happens. You know what else is fascinating?
What's fascinating? Replays?
Replays. And Falcon 9.
Starting out with the replay of tonight's Starlink mission from Fleet Cam. You can already see clouds are getting in the way. Oh, goodness. But you can still see it shining through a bunch of it. That's just how bright Falcon 9 is. It's an artificial sunrise, and we say that very often, and it becomes cliche, but you have to see one with your own eyes to really understand what that means visually. Spectacular. I think this is OG Fleet, or maybe this is Fleet 2. I'm not quite sure. Because we now have two Fleet cams both at Rusty's in the port, the restaurant in Port Canaveral.
It's OG Fleet.
This is OG Fleet. Okay.
I tried to point Fleet 2 and failed miserably, so it got Sky. No rocket, just Sky.
But there's a rocket in this frame, though.
There is a rocket in this frame.
There's actually two rockets in this frame that we're seeing on screen, with Booster 14 on the right and Falcon 9 on the left, technically speaking. And this looks like it's one of our bots here on top of the hut here at the Kennedy Space Center press site, which is where I am conveniently. Yeah. The thing about super high moisture evenings or nights here in Florida is you can almost see the individual water molecules in the air, and when a very bright source of light refracts or reflects off of them, it lights up everything at least like twice as well as it would otherwise. that is how you can tell it was absolutely just humid as all can be here tonight. But this is about how it would look with your own eyes. Falcon 9 is a very bright launch vehicle.
And on that humidity, we also got quite a brilliant display of vapor today.
D, we have you back on comms.
Indeed.
How was the launch for you?
It was wonderful. It might be one of the loudest I've heard for a Falcon 9. It felt like it was particularly loud tonight, whether that's condensation or just me being tired and hearing things. But it was a gorgeous launch. We can see more of the clouds are moving in our direction right now, but for launch itself, from our perspective, it was miraculously clear. It was sort of luck of the timing of this launch, but it was a good one.
It certainly was, and launches from LC-39A are always a treat, considering our vantage point and our distance to the pad is a lot less than it would otherwise be for Slick 40 from the press site as well. So, yep, and it was because it was very, very humid, as we have been saying quite often. Humid, thick, and dense air carries the acoustic energy from rockets a lot better, and that is why Falcon 9 sounded so just pungent and intense tonight. Is this from one of your cameras, D?
Yep, I believe that is from my stationary camera to the left, and just a static view of the liftoff here.
Falcon 9 climbing away and out of frame. That is so pretty. It's always, we say it a lot, but it is such a treat to watch from LC-39A. There'll be some audio too. Oh, or not.
I forgot to listen for the audio, sorry.
All good. Now, this camera I had set up well before in advance of streaming, and we were having some issues with it before, and I want to thank Dee and Kevin for troubleshooting those. But when this camera was set up, the flag was blowing was blowing well into the left side of the frame, which would have been a lot cooler to see Falcon 9 fly behind the American flag. But obviously, the wind has died, and the flag is just audio incoming or not. It's okay.
Nope.
The flag was blowing when that camera was set up, but obviously not anymore. This looks like it was tracked remotely from one of our Cape cameras at the edge of Port Canaveral. Exhaust still very bright here, but as Falcon 9 begins to ascend farther, the exhaust will grow dimmer and grow longer and change in color as the ambient pressure around all 9 Merlins begins to decrease. And there you go. Changing from orange to red to blue and almost green. Look at that. Looks like it might be a little out of focus for second engine start 1. That's okay though. It was a great view of the upper ascent of the first stage.
This might have been Carson's first time tracking remotely, so
Was Carson the one tracking tonight? Okay.
Carson was tracking, yeah. Usually, if Carson's up this late, he's not tracking; he's operating.
That's true. It's very true. A bunch of us have been up very late a lot of the time. This looks like it might be auto track, or is this a manual track? Very smooth either way. You can see the camera shake there as the sound was beginning to hit the cameras and all areas here at the press site. We are so spoiled. We say it often, but maybe it isn't the same for for a lot of folks out there, but for a lot of us here at NSF, this never gets old, especially seeing it in person. And I'm sure D can also attest to that as well.
Oh yeah, never gets old. Always love to see a launch. Still seeing, like, with my own eyes, looking out at 39A. This is a wonderful place to be, looking up at the vehicle assembly building as well.
Now, I can tell immediately there's going to be audio for this one, and I can tell this is also your tracking camera, so I'm going to hush hush once we see Falcon 9 ignite its engines and lift off here. And any second, look out for the green flash at T-tab at Merlin ignition. Hopefully. There we go. Dee's saying this is not the good audio one, but you can tell it was a very intense sound from Falcon 9 tonight as it was blowing out the microphone, which is not that difficult to do when it comes to rocket launches. And there's that. That is how you can also tell that it is a very humid night, especially even in the upper atmosphere. In the upper atmosphere, there was a very strong vapor cone as Falcon 9 was transitioning into supersonic speeds. Now in the cons, beginning to see a lot of the atmospheric exhaust expansion. I just want to watch every single time. Sorry if I go quiet, folks. I just enjoy watching this probably as much, if not more, than a bunch of people on the night. It's a treat every single time. You can see the individual plumes of all 9 Merlins there as the exhaust has expanded as such. Coming up on Miko here in just a few seconds. And there it is. Well, those were all the replays that we currently have, except for D's slow-mo, which we will play out with here in a bit. But as you can see, Booster 14 has arrived to the launch site in Starbase, Texas, in preparations for Flight 9, hopefully in about 8 or 9 days, depending on what SpaceX wants to do. But at this point, Kevin, is it time to wrap? Or should we keep going?
I mean, booster is just going to roll between the sticks, and then it's going to sit there for a while, and then it'll eventually lift onto the ULM.
Yes, and you can always see that even if we are not covering here, you can always see it with our 24/7 live cameras in Starbase, Texas, with Starbase Live 24/7 here on YouTube from us. But yeah, it's safe to say now that Booster 14 has arrived at the launch site. Took a bit longer than perhaps we would have liked or even expected due to some issues, it looked like, with the SPMTs very, very early on in the roll. But it is there now, and they should be getting ready to lift it in just a few hours, hopefully, if they can get it into position quick enough. All right, I'm going to hit Apocalypse Cow, a name that I haven't seen that I haven't seen here in a bit. I know I think others have, but I haven't seen it in a while. Apocalypse Cow with a $10 super chat. How does something sound pungent? Maybe I have the meaning of that word a little bit not as I think it is, but pungent. From my understanding,
maybe you
pungent,
mean punchy.
But no, I definitely mean pungent. unless I had the meaning of pungent incorrect, which is not entirely, which is a possibility. But TLDR, it just sounded very intense. Falcon 9 always does from this pad. Yeah, it was a gorgeous night for a launch here at the Kennedy Space Center. But yeah, okay, maybe I do have the meaning of that word wrong. It's okay. It happens. English is hard sometimes. Yes, D, punchy does mean intense. Yes, I know. I've said punchy before too. All right. Ooh. So before we go, I want to make sure that we have Ship 35 addressed for its static fire. So Jennifer Gates asking, did the Ship 35 static fire go okay with the early shutdown of the vacuum Raptors? I believe we commented on that during stream, but Ryan, did that look, or Alex or Ryan, did that look normal to you guys?
It was the same as 34. The RVAC shut down 10 seconds before the sea levels. Both 60-second static fires have that, so I'm going to go ahead and say that that's normal. SpaceX has not posted anything about it, but they could easily be waiting for tomorrow after everything that's gone on today. Based off of the video we saw, it looked normal. Of course, we won't have that 100% confirmation until SpaceX says something. But the other part of that is, well, the booster is at the pad, so for that launch. So I think if it didn't go great, I don't think Booster 14 would be at the pad right now. I think they would have delayed this roll. So I am going to assume it's fine.
Yeah, and also just comparing apples to apples to the last 6-engine fire attempt, that one was just under 30 seconds, and this one was a full minute, 60 seconds right on the money. So we presume that is what SpaceX wanted to do, and an early shutdown of the RVACs was commanded. But that was what they wanted to do. So, Ship 35 appears to be healthy. We are still waiting on word from SpaceX as to whether or not it is good, but we should be seeing it rolling back to the production site within the next day or so, if not just tomorrow. Well, technically now today here, both on the East Coast and now in Central Time, now being past midnight there. Ooh, another good question from Adam F. Just how powerful could a fully expended Super Heavy configuration be? We have seen numbers quoted from SpaceX before. I can't quite remember what they are, but there is a significant performance increase between a fully expended Super Heavy booster and a reusable Super Heavy booster, because of course, obviously, it needs to save the fuel on board to perform those boost back and landing burns. So in terms of tonnage, Alex, do we have any idea, at least with this current configuration and maybe going forward with V3?
I think at some point they said that they wanted to have up to 300 tons to orbit expendable, which is quite a lot, just to put it mildly, I guess. 300 tons, you can get 3/4 of the ISS in terms of mass up there. Two launches of the Apollo program, like one of those Apollo missions to the moon, right? Between the upper stage fuel, the lunar module, and the Apollo command and service module, that was around 120 tons, 130 tons. Double that, and you still don't get to 300. So you can get quite the tonnage up there. But of course, Super Heavy and Starship are fully reusable, which means a lot of that performance, a lot of that tonnage goes into that re-entry and landing for both the first and second stages. So, if you can launch 2 of these, and it's 150 tons to low Earth orbit, and it's fully reusable, that's a lot cheaper than just one of 300 ton to low Earth orbit expendable flight.
And not to mention the vast cost increase between a reusable Super Heavy booster and the cost of tossing one away is going to be significantly higher, because the goal, obviously, or one of the main goals of hardware reuse is the cost decrease compared to any other hardware before it. So it would cost a lot more. And the same that a fully expendable Falcon Heavy is one of the most expensive launch vehicles, I think, if not the most expensive launch vehicle currently offered by SpaceX. So, and we have seen that on a couple of occasions now, both with the Viasat 3 mission in April of 2023, and most recently with the Europa Clipper mission in October of last year, literally a day after Flight 5, and they first caught a super heavy booster 12. So not often that we see it, but it's also not really a common sight that we see Falcon Heavy at all, really.
I can see a world where, in the future, you have a one-off, sort of like a deep space kind of upper stage Starship, right? Like a very stripped down version of it with, the nose cone pops out and everything, and you just have the tanks. You don't have any of the TPS, any of the flaps, any of the reusability portions, but still the boosters still get reused, and then you can launch tankers, for example, and then you fill up that expendable second stage with reusable tankers. You fill it up to the brim, and now you can launch a huge probe out there in deep space, for example, right? Like, I can see that sort of thing, and hopefully, especially with the upper stage Starship, it doesn't have as many engines. super heavy with 33 engines. You don't want to throw that off, right? But with fewer engines, that upper stage is a lot cheaper, and especially simple stainless steel barrel sections, that's quite cheap to produce. It would be something that if you wanted to expand, probably not that expensive, and you can get quite a mission out there. So I'll say one-off. I maybe happens at some point in the future, but we'll see.
It had to be quite. Ooh, we getting played out now?
What? Huh.
I mean, it does appear that Booster 14 has arrived at the base of the orbital launch mount at Pad A and near the chopsticks. So that would appear to be the last portion of the roll of Booster 14 from the production site to the launch site. So at this point, I'm going to start thanking people for being on the launch stream tonight, as long as it was. So first and foremost, I want to thank Alex for coming on and offering commentary. Alex, thank you very much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. I kind of missed it. That little trip to the US kind of, it had me itching, and I was like, I want to be back. But yeah, as usual, it was a double header. Booster 14 roll and Falcon 9 launch, of course. And, hopefully we'll have more action soon.
It was not our first doubleheader, and it will surely not be our last either, with activity picking up. Also joining us on commentary tonight was Mr. Ryan Weber. Ryan, thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure as always, Max. Two doubleheaders today. 3 major Starship events. Let's see if we get the Ship 35 rollback tomorrow, the 10 a.m. closure. Get some final checkouts so we can get the Flight 9 here.
Absolutely. The faster, the better. And also joining us from the field here at the Kennedy Space Center to help out with cameras and tracking Falcon 9 for the Starlink mission tonight was D-Wise. D, thank you very much for coming on and offering the cameras.
Of course. This has been an absolutely wonderful day, and what a great group of people to hang out with.
There are certainly worse places to be in the world. And speaking of great places to be in the world, also in the field tonight, helping us with camera views in Starbase of the roll were both Gage and Caesar out in Starbase along Highway 4, giving us additional views. So Gage and Caesar, I'm not sure if you are listening, but thank you very much for all the hard work that you guys do. You guys have been working your tails off the last few days and the past few weeks, so we all see it. And we are all very grateful. But also behind the scenes, pushing the buttons and pulling the levers tonight has been the one and only Kevin Michael Reed, God himself, staying awake with us and offering all of the live stream magic that he does. So, Kevin, thank you very much. My name is Max Evans. I am a spaceflight photographer here at NSF, and I have been your host for tonight's stream. I'm sure we will all see you again very soon for additional Starship or Falcon activity here, either on the Space Coast of Florida or in Starbase, Texas. Peace out, y'all.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FTE off. Say again, FTE off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?